Down and go. And the young man can run.
Nice.
Oh, they just let him go. He's inside the 5 and down to the 3. 43-yard run for Harbor. Alante Brown has come in. And look at this. Little chicanery. There it is. Foster. He has it inside the 15. Harburg's got to let it fly. Time winding down. Michigan State gets the W. The first for interim head coach Harlan Barnett.
You know, obviously very disappointed. A lot of credit goes to Michigan State. They battled, they fought. They're a team that has lost these games this year in the fourth quarter, and they found a way to win it. And that's a credit to them. Disappointed. Really just wasn't our best game today. I think all across the board. We didn't tackle the way that we normally do. We gave up some big plays. Every scoring drive had a pass play of 25 yards. I don't know if they ran for 100 yards. They certainly hit us on double move and a trick play and a missed tackle. And then offensively in the second half, we couldn't get anything going. So proud of the guys' effort. I thought they fought at the end to go down and get the ball back and stop them on defense and go down and have a chance to go kick a field goal to win that game, which I expect us to go do. But overall, just, the whole performance was not our best.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
I just got 3 things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
And good morning, everybody. Welcome in on a Monday, the 6th of November. Happy opening day of college basketball. If you are celebrating today, if you wear red or you wear black, blue, you can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, get your turn.
185 basketball games involving Division I men's teams today. One will be in this town, Omaha Dome. Nebraska plays Lindenwood. So let's celebrate. Kind of college basketball opening day seems, like, first of all, it's starting way too early.
Yeah.
I'm not ready.
It always does.
I'm not ready for tonight. But also, of those 185 games, 72 of them are against non-Division I, which is not good for the sport. But I would like a big splash. There's a couple of good games today. But if you are celebrating college basketball and maybe you just get caught up in the fall stuff that's going on and you don't realize that hoops begins today, John Fanta told me that 217 days ago was the UConn National Championship. I mean, only him and Rothstein count down.
Yeah.
They know exactly how many days.
It's when you're a hoop head.
So we'll talk some hoops because now this is the fun part of the year where all the fall sports that are getting into the championship portion of their schedules, they start to cross over with the winter sports that are starting. Not a bad time of the year. Not a good day on Saturday. I said enough on Big Red Overreaction, so this is what you guys for the next 4 hours.
And this was great, by the way. Kudos to you and Johnny, because as I was pulled into my neighborhood, it was my brother's birthday, so we were watching the game out in Blair, and then we were coming back. We were listening to the post game, and as I pulled into the driveway, I turned the car off, shut the car down, and I noticed that then a bunch of people just exited their homes and decided to do Christmas lights in our neighborhood.
They took your advice,
and somebody had Big Red Overreaction blaring, where I thought there was something wrong with my car. I'm like, what is going on? And the entire street was flooded with the dulcet tones of you and John Bishop. But
a lot of swearing on that show on Saturday.
Yeah, people were. I mean, I get the anger, but man, can you imagine if that was a night game?
You know what? So I think I was trying to put my finger on the emotion of that game that happened on Saturday. Now, one guy calls in and he always swears. That's like his thing because he wants to see how long I'll let him on because I know it's coming. And so he made it a good minute and a half before he dropped the S-bomb. So frustrating, disappointing was used. I don't know that people were angry. Like if you go back and you look at that game on Saturday, and first we have to start this off by saying Michigan State had a really good game plan.
Yeah.
And they executed. And especially on defense, they played they probably delivered their best performance of the year. So anger, frustration, disappointment. Yeah, you can have all of those. You know what, though, Saturday was? Saturday was just kind of reality.
Yes.
I mean, no, Nebraska has been that
That's a great point.
team. They've been kind of walking along the high wire, and they have relied on big plays on offense. They've relied on stout defense, and they've usually won the special teams battle. And they've been able to do that. I mean, in the current schedule that's in front of them, they've been able to do that. And also, they've played better than the 3 teams that they beat in the month of October. They didn't play better when it mattered against Michigan State. And when you play with fire, sometimes you get burned and reality hits. And Nebraska found out what reality is. They are who they are.
Yeah.
They're not all of a sudden going to be different against Maryland. They're not a different team that they were against Purdue. It just things lined up where they weren't able to hit on big plays. Their defense wasn't up to standard in the first half. Special teams, they got destroyed in. And they played a team that played pretty well. And all of those things added up. And Nebraska loses, and the march to 6th continues this weekend against a fellow 5-4 team in Maryland.
Yeah, and that was the biggest takeaway that I had immediately after the game is that Saturday was that result was always in the cards. That result was always going to be in the cards because of the turnover issues. This is one of those games where I know it's popular to go in on the quarterback position, but this was a game where if you had the right type of defensive plan and you were going to make a quarterback like Heiner Carberg beat you throwing the football, there was always going to be that type of game. That was always going to be there. And this was that one game where your situation at quarterback with what you have and what you don't have, and your situation at the wideout position, what you have and what you don't have, it was amplified. And I'm glad you brought up Michigan State because I think you have to start with how Michigan State decided to defend Nebraska in that game. But that was always going to be something that you had to be mindful of. And it's easy to kind of ignore it a little bit. It's easy to kind of overlook some of those faults and some of those things and kind of maybe lean in on the man, they're, Harburg's a gritty dude, or Harburg, he's winning football games. Like it's easy to lean in on that when the result is indeed that. But then when you lose games and you look at, okay, that was a bad decision. Okay, man, every ball is sailing on him. Okay, the inaccuracies are there. Then and you see the defense not being able to bail you out, or the special teams not having, that moment that, can kind of, change a game, maybe a punt block, or, not fair catching every punt, something that all of a sudden sort of ignites you. And again, just sort of masks the deficiencies that you have on offense. It's almost like we kind of forget, this is what this team is. Now, again, the defense, it wasn't as, I think as Matt Rule would describe, and I think that maybe it's probably the best way overall to look at it, is as crisp, as sound, especially in the first half. Passing game, especially with a lot of seam routes, and there was a 3rd and short where, there was nobody on the tight end, like on the strong side of the field, like just little things like that. Okay, I think we've watched this defense enough where that was a little bit alarming. But at the end of the day, if you have some better situations offensively and special teams is not just horrible, you still probably find a way to win that game. But this result with the deficiencies that Nebraska has, always in the cards.
I think they'd be in 2 significant areas. So if you looked at the quarterback against quarterback, you had to be more efficient than Michigan State's quarterbacks, and you were thinking we could force turnovers. That's a game where Nebraska didn't force a turnover and didn't commit a penalty. How weird is that? But they didn't force a turnover. And Michigan State's quarterbacks were more efficient than Nebraska's quarterback. But the where this game was really turned was Michigan State was dominant in the kicking game. They were dominant. And Nebraska paid for it. Buschini chose a bad day to have a bad game. Guys on defense were a little bit leaky to begin the game. Guys that you've relied on, Gifford, Newsome, opening drives, some broken plays. It was a weird day. And, probably when you sit back and look at it, you go, man, this probably was going to happen. You were trying to push it further and further towards the end of the season, or at least get by. That one of these was in the future.
Hoping you get your 6 before you have that game.
And it happened. We all thought that. We also, you know what? That's why you got to give credit to Michigan State. We thought that Michigan State would just roll over. Initially, they would play hard, and they did, but then they didn't go away. Yeah. And Nebraska never had a chance in that game. I don't like Nebraska chasing points. They're not built to come from behind. But they never had a game control. Even when it was 10-10 at halftime, and that's what I thought it would be, I never thought, well, Nebraska is going to come out of the locker room and they're going to march down the field in the opening drive and they're going to win the middle 8 and they're going to put this game away because you never were able to put Michigan State away like last week Minnesota did against them.
Yeah.
But this has probably been sitting there. And then all of the elements. It was a sleepy game. It was 11 a.m. Yeah. The television broadcast was completely awful. The officiating was so inconsistent. Just a lot of things lined up where this team, which is just, they're a 5-4 team, they don't have enough to overcome that on a bad day. They've had enough to overcome that for 3 straight games against teams in their own division. Michigan State played a Big Ten West type game, and they beat Nebraska. And that's the reality. I don't think it raises any new concerns about, oh, no, this exposed some things.
That's just reality.
It just reminded you where you are currently in this season with your personnel and how you're going about your business.
Yeah.
Makes you thankful to be 5-4, to be honest with you.
Well, no.
No?
They did things to get 5 wins that's their identity. They didn't do them on Saturday. Their identity was not on display until too late. They were too safe early. They were too late to be aggressive. So I'm not going to say that they've earned their 5 wins. They just got beat by a team that exposed them a little bit and also played better than them. Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue did not play better than Nebraska. Michigan State did.
And the thing that stings, obviously, is people are doing a lot of scoreboard watching, and you're watching what's unfolding in Bloomington during that game, and then you're watching what is happening around you. It's like, okay, there obviously was an opportunity there for Nebraska, but again, I'm glad you brought up the part about it doesn't all of a sudden expose new things, because I don't think there's anything about this team that we saw on Saturday that we're like, oh, well, that's I haven't seen that. Again, that's why when you look at how Nebraska defensively, especially setting the tone defensively right out of the gate, and that's maybe the one area that we can look at it in the first half of this game and say, okay, it didn't necessarily set the tone the way that it has in those previous 3 wins. And so offensively, you've got a situation with your offensive line. Did Nuri Nuili come back maybe too soon? He didn't have his best game, but the offensive line, and really, Teddy Prohaska played a decent game. But the offensive line is what it is. Okay, it's not like it's going to take on this.
Yeah, I don't think they were. I mean, I know what you're kind of leading to. I don't think they were. They were okay. I mean, they weren't bad. They were okay. But they were trying to defend 7 guys. It seemed like every time.
Well, but that's the thing is, it's not going to dramatically improve. Heinrich Harburg isn't all of a sudden, just continue to give him game reps, and he's just all of a sudden he's going to unlock something that we haven't seen at this point. I mean, all of those things that I think sometimes you can be on a win streak and all of a sudden the team exposes something and you see something, you're like, oh, okay, well, let's see how they respond or how this individual responds to that. I just didn't see anything that was overly shocking about the performance. Maybe sans and even I could say Brian Buschini, but Brian Buschini has been kind of inconsistent this year. It's not like that was a one-off as far as that game. Now, he'd been better as of late, but he's had some moments where it just hasn't been there this year, where he's averaging maybe a little over 36, 37 yards a punt. I think about, what we've seen with the running game, what we've seen with how teams have tried to defend. I mean, they really only sent pressure on Heinrich Harburg once. Everything that they were doing, they were getting to with 3 or 4 down linemen. So again, but that's happened before, where we haven't seen teams just absolutely going all out blitzing Heinrich Harburg and just trying to, rattle him or anything of that nature. I mean, so there's just a lot of things that they were able to overcome before. And I think, again, a lot of it was because they had a little bit more steady special teams play, but defense set the tone right out of the gate. This time, Michigan State knew what they wanted to try to do against this defense early on. They had some success, hit on a couple big pass plays early on, and then all of a sudden they were able to do just enough where it just kind of it got you off to sort of in a little bit of a funk early on. But I mean, before you know it, Nebraska, Harburg's in the end zone and they take the lead at 7-3, and you're thinking, okay, now you go. Like I was talking at halftime with some of my family, and they're all so like, oh gosh, this just doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. And I was kind of with you, where I'm like, yeah, but this is just kind of like that doesn't make me discouraged that they're not going to be able to win this game. Like I still feel like they're in a position where they kind of have been all year, where it's been close. I expect them to be able to do the necessary things in the second half, just a little bit better to win the game. And it didn't happen. But again, that wasn't like my mom even said to me, she goes, "Oh, I'm mad at you because you promised they would win." I said,
way to go, man.
I said, look, you can only do so much with this team, but none of this, because we were like, wow, was that surprising? No, it's not surprising, because that, again, I'll go back to this time and time about that performance. It was always in the cards if you didn't have the things kind of clicking like you had the last 3 weeks, mainly, again, defense and just a little bit more reliable special teams. Offensively, yeah, maybe you hit on a couple more of those passes and stuff, but Heiner Carberg has a tendency to airmail some passes, get guys off target a little bit. All right. Just his ability when he's dropping back and not seeing that first read, and then he wants to tuck immediately and run, and there's nowhere to go. And all of a sudden he just has to kind of drop it. I mean, there's just a lot of things that have existed before, but they've been able to kind of get away with it.
You want to take a positive from Saturday's game? And I a little bit of this conversation we're having now. I think if you press Rule, he could see this coming. I think he could see this coming. I don't think Nebraska overlooked Michigan State.
No, not at all. Never thought that one.
I just think they didn't get off to a good start again. And again, they played a team that kept going at them. Mm-hmm. It's not like Michigan State. We were all waiting for that one point where Michigan State would make a mistake, and they did. Yeah. Here, if you want to take one positive from a game like this, an absolute clunker. I mean, it was typical Big Ten West day. Where Wisconsin suffers a bad loss. They lose to Indiana. Northwestern Iowa, Iowa wins a pitcher's duel at Wrigley Field. If there was a positive about Saturday, if you want to compare where Nebraska is now to where they've been in the past, games like this against comparable talent, when you have some elements of your game that are completely off, the wheels fall off. The wheels never fell off for Nebraska. And crazy to think that at the end, they still had a chance. Yeah. They probably should have had a chance to get into field goal range for Alvano to try a game-tying field goal at the end of regulation. But the wheels never fell off. They never got behind 17-10, and all of a sudden it was 24-10. And then they make a mistake, then it's 27-10. And you're going, wow, that game escalated pretty quick.
We've seen that before, yeah.
I use this phrase on Big Red Overreaction. For the last 3 weeks or so, Nebraska's been standing outside of that hole of muck, and they've been staring down at it. And Northwestern and Illinois and Purdue have tried to drag them into it. And Nebraska's done a good job of keeping their feet planted, and they don't fall into that hole. Well, they fell into that hole, and they're just not built where they can get out of it. Offensively, they're not a team that can chase points and come from behind. But now they gotta chase another one. The March to 6 continues, and they're an underdog at home against Maryland on the Peacock at 11 a.m. on Saturday. Probably will not be favored in another game the rest of the season. But if you look at the following two, Wisconsin and Iowa, this would be one you'd want to get.
Yeah,
you don't want to have the stress. You don't have the stress convention going to Madison or coming home to play Iowa, which the way the Big Ten West works, Iowa may be looking to lock up a division championship on your home field. Mm-hmm. So the Maryland game becomes very, very important. You don't want to mess around, especially at home. And I think you'll see them different playing at home compared to the road. I mean, if that game was played at home Saturday, it's a different result.
I agree.
It's a different result.
Yeah.
But you got to learn. That's part of the growing pains of a program. You got to learn. It doesn't matter if you're in front of your own fans or somebody else. I mean, you're not good enough to make mistakes or be average when you need to be above average.
Yeah, and I think that's hell. You see this with good teams too, where sometimes when you're so talented that you might have the fear of God put into you by a much lesser team, and you still somehow escape with a victory, but you're able to take something away from that. Obviously, we know Nebraska from a talent standpoint is not even close to that level yet, but you do see teams that, and it's, I 100% agree. It's not, well, they were overlooking it. What are you overlooking? There was no overlooking Michigan State.
Yeah, that never crossed my mind.
I think even, trying to get a gauge of this game the days leading up to it, I'd be honest. Like, I felt very confident about Nebraska in this particular matchup. Liked where their head was, liked what they've done. They've had that formula, and it looked like against Michigan State for a team that was really on the edge of the cliff, that you felt like that formula really could serve them well there. And maybe being on the road, they could kind of, even sort of demonstrate that a little bit like they did against Illinois. It didn't happen, but again, there's something to be said about a team that is a program that is continuing to learn how to win football games, but also how to handle success. That this isn't they got too big for their britches, overlooked it. No, but I mean, there were execution moments in this game that cost them dearly. But yet, despite all that, you kind of saw this game playing a little bit to what we thought the script might be. I mean, the last drive that Nebraska goes in before the locker room, the amount of self-inflicted wounds that Michigan State committed on themselves, you're thinking, okay, there's that Michigan State role reversal of, Nebraska used to be that team. Well, Michigan State was doing everything they could in that moment.
Now, there's an F part of this game, the frustrating part. Michigan State did give Nebraska a lot of openings.
Yes.
And Nebraska wasn't able to take advantage of them. I mean, that's the F part of this game.
And I think that's again, though, a learning opportunity again for this Nebraska team. We continue to discover about this team.
Learning, or they just didn't make plays. I mean, that's part of football.
I mean, yeah, I think lack of execution is huge in this.
Some days you just don't make plays.
Right. But as far as
they have chalk on the other sidelines, they're on scholarship.
The overall learning part of it that I would point to, though, is, okay, for a team that you can win with that formula, you're living dangerously with the turnover margin. And that is something, again, if that turnover margin remains the same, these types of performances, this is probably more of the norm of what happened on Saturday compared to what you've done in previous games, where it's sort of the outlier, where you're sort of redefining logic there a little bit. What happened, again, when you turn the ball over that much and you're not getting turnovers yourself, that's more of a normal result in college football Saturday. So how are you addressing that? And not even the turnovers, but how are you understanding now, okay, the formula that has worked for us, it bit us in the ass on Saturday, but now you're going back home. How are you sharpening that execution in the areas that have to matter? And obviously we'd love to say, well, first and foremost, got to be turnovers, right? I don't know if we're even at that part of the season right now where we can expect Nebraska to have zero turnovers, commit zero turnovers. It's more of, okay, whatever they do, we've talked about this last week, minimizing them and just hoping that your defense is able to create more, or your turnover numbers -1 at the worst. Nebraska's proven that they can overcome that, but you continue to put yourself in a position where you're trying to overcome 3 every game. That result, that's more normal. Most teams in college football, especially as you put comparable talent, when you're -3 in the turnover battle, yeah, that result is probably going to be more likely.
Yeah, they didn't respect Harburg. They didn't respect him at all. I mean, they forced him to run, and he couldn't run. I mean, Michigan State, again, going back and watching again, Michigan State had a good game plan on defense. And you know what? They also had, in terms of offense, they had great play calls at the right time. The Alante Brown pass was perfect. So they were on a heater on that sideline. And they're an average team as well. And probably 5-4 Nebraska and 3-6 Michigan State are a lot closer than we think. Those games, the margin of error is so small, and Nebraska across the board, their margin of error is really, really small. And offensively, they needed to make a play here or there at crucial times. They couldn't do it. Came about execution. I think they'll be the same team that'll play next week. And, you're playing a team that is 5-4 and is on their East Division swoon again, where, Maryland's all of a sudden lost 4 games. I don't want to overthink this game. I mean, there's things in this game that are reality that we know, but we just didn't really talk about, or we've talked a lot about, especially at quarterback. I don't want to overthink Saturday. Nebraska got beat. Okay, They didn't show up. They got beat in 2 crucial areas: quarterback play and special teams, where one could have been a push, and the other could have been a push. You thought going in, all right, Harburg will be a little bit better. He won't turn the ball over as much as they will. Or special teams would be a push. They weren't, and Nebraska paid for it. And those are 2 key areas when you lose a 1-score game.
Yeah, and I would add to the frustration part, or at least the confusing part of this game when it comes to special teams too, was, and I know it's been talked about until everyone's blue in the face at this point here in the last 48 hours, and that is the philosophy of the punt return game.
Santino Kemp?
Yes. And I heard a lot of people bringing this up, and again, this is where sometimes your words come back to bite you a little bit and this was more about the kickoff, so I want to be fair to Matt Rule, but we're not a team that's going to fair catch. We're going to take it and try to get the yards that we can. I understood people's frustration, like, well, then why are we doing that on Saturday?
No, that was just that quote was just kickoff returns, though, right?
Right. It was just about kickoffs. And my takeaway was not necessarily that they decided that was going to be their philosophy, but how truly bad and lack of confidence that they have in anybody that they could put out there right now. And you saw Ethan Nation, and I was actually kind of excited when he had a chance to return one there at the end. But you have Kemp out there. There was 2 moments where he probably could have taken the ball upfield if he was physically better. But it just, if that's the philosophy and you're just going to go all in on the block and just use, as he called, stability in the punt return game, to me, that paints another pretty, if you didn't know already, a pretty obvious picture in front of the coaches that they don't trust anybody back there to return.
No, they
punts.
want the ball caught. Now I'm going to push back on something you just said. Is you say, well, there's 100 guys down there that could go return a punt. A lot of guys that may have returned punt in high school, they don't want to do it in college. It's not easy. Okay, so I don't want to say, oh, hey, look at that roster. You can't find a guy. Now, Ethan Nation is one of those guys that in warm-ups on Saturday was catching punts. Here's what I didn't like about it. I understand the reasoning early on to go and try and block a punt, okay? But Michigan State picked up on that Kemp was only back there to fair catch. That his only reason was because he's the only guy in the special teams world that they trust to actually catch a punt. Now, he should not have caught one, would have gone in the end zone, would have been a touchback. He made a mistake. So that philosophy early, I'm good with. But you know what? Michigan State read right through that. And Eckley was, I can just boom it away.
Yeah, line drives, whatever.
So Michigan State was on to you because they never saw Kemp on the field offensively. So they're like, we know what they're doing. Now, that's a safe play and a smart play, I believe, early in the game. But when you are starting to lose the field position game like Nebraska did, you got to be aggressive. And that's when you say, okay, Ethan Nation, go make a play. And he wasn't out there to field a punt until at the end of the game.
That's where, again, I go back to the frustration part of it, because you're on the road. You're not really generating anything sustainable. You need a spark. You need something. And then we talk about this all the time, whether it's a special teams play, a punt block, or a field goal block. We saw that in the previous week too, and what that meant in that game. At some point, instead of just trying to play things safe, like at some point as the road team, and a team that I think has a mentality that is close to this, would be, we're going to go and make the play. We're not going to let the play come to us. I get it. Michigan State's mistake prone. They'd shown that throughout the year, but it wasn't happening. Like they were doing a good enough job to try to keep Nebraska at arm's length to the point that you needed some type of thing to kind of flip that script a little bit. And to me, that was probably changing something up in the special teams to where you're actually trying to make that play as opposed to playing it safe. I think if I'm to look at something in the frustration category, it would probably be that. But again, I also think, and this is going to be an interesting question for Matt Rule today too, about how they do decide to go about that situation if it presents himself. Obviously, you hope you have a healthier Billy Kemp as the days progress. But at some point, you're going to need someone to be able to catch that punt and at least attempt to turn it upfield and do something, because there were probably some plays to be had that they just couldn't do anything with.
All right, let me give you the lineup for the show here on the opening day of college basketball. Ryan Miller, assistant coach at Creighton. Creighton rolled against Wayne State the other night. I would like to find out the name of the photographer. Did you guys see the picture of Kalkbrenner's block?
No.
I did not.
So it's a great shot that was shared on the Creighton men's basketball Twitter account. And it is not in my house. I'd like to know the name of that photographer because that's a great shot. But Creighton rolled against Wayne State. They play Florida A&M tomorrow night, a little after 8, that tip-off. Ryan Miller, assistant coach for the Jays, going to join us coming up at 8:05. Jacob Bigelow stops by. We'll get his thoughts on now Nebraska. Who's going to play tonight for Nebraska against Lindenwood down at Pinnacle Bank Arena. See, why are we starting on a Monday? Like, this just feels odd. Like there's no buzz for college basketball. Yeah. There is for what this season is going to entail for Creighton. But like across the sport.
But start it tomorrow. But even then.
Why not push it back a week? Why not start when I think it should start? And that's Thanksgiving week.
Like it used to? Great Alaska shootout?
I don't know. We're so into football.
Yeah.
And, hey.
I'm with you.
Thank you. I got to get a thank you card before I go home today and lay it on my couch. My couch was good to me today. And yesterday and Saturday. There was a lot of good football. My couch was really good. My couch was the MVP.
Nice.
So I got to get a thank you card. But it doesn't feel like basketball season's starting.
No. This time of the year, I'm always...
maybe around here because we're all into football. But
yeah.
And that it's going to be in the 70s this next couple of days. So you think it's a couple months earlier than it is. And it just, it doesn't feel like a basketball game night.
The two winter sports that I'll find myself mostly engaged in this time of the year too, especially, is always feels like it starts a little bit like hockey. I'm never prepared for that. I'm like, October 1st, really? We're rolling on that already. And then here we are, first Monday of November, and away we go with college basketball. But yeah, it's just because I know personally for me, I have too much football in the mind. I have NFL, I've got college football in the mind. That's just, I want to get a little bit closer to, like you said, like the Maui. You start to get to some of the tournaments.
I used to eat that up.
You get to the holidays. Yeah, you get to the holidays, and all of a sudden you got a little bit more tournaments going on, and then we get a little bit closer to conference play opening up, and then that's where it has a little bit of teeth. So, yeah.
Get a few more marquee matchups later into November to get us excited.
No, what they need to do to get people excited is to have a tournament. Every Division I program gets a different court. They wear different uniforms, and let's play for a cup. Let's begin the year with a tournament, and let's finish with a tournament.
Hey, you know what? People like tournaments.
Rest in peace, old.
If there's something on the line, even if it means zero, if there's something on the line.
Sarcastic as I am, that would be such a dumb idea, NBA. But Hoops kicks off tonight. Also, Amy Just will stop by. Arnie is back from Michigan State.
Did they misspell our Starbucks cup again?
No, on her media pass.
Oh,
it was Arnie Just.
That's usually how it is. I know her as much as Arnie is Amy.
Do you think if Amy was not a female, she would be an Arnie?
Well, that's a good question.
How many Arnie?
I don't know many Arnies.
I don't think I know any Arnies. I mean, that'd be
I don't know an Arnold.
Be a little bit of an older gentleman to have a name Arnie.
Kind of a curmudgeon, but
I know more pets named Arnold than I know humans. And in fact, I don't think I know any humans like that I can rattle off the top of my head.
Arnie Spanier. That's who I thought of when you said Arnie.
Sports talk guy?
Yeah.
Gambling guy? Dead or alive?
He's alive.
Okay.
That's why I checked. I was curious.
He used to be like all over sports talk radio.
Yeah, I remember. Now I gotta look him up. He's on the Twitter, as they all are.
But yeah, I mean, like, he's older, to your point. Like, you're not seeing some like spry 20-year-olds named Arnold or Arnie.
You got kindergarten. Yeah, this is Arnold.
Yeah.
All right, the lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Yes, he was tweeting last night.
Speaking of John Higgins, college basketball begins, and he's retired.
Yeah.
I said the other day, where are you going to be? Shock. He's going to go to the West Coast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he'll make his way around the West Coast as a
good for him,
an evaluator, whatever his official title is.
What a gig.
So no Higgy. Hey, I asked him about Bobby Knight.
Consultant.
I asked, he worked, of course, games where Bobby Knight was coaching. Higgy told me he gave him a technical. So, like, Bob Knight's closest friends are Bill Parcells, Tony La Russa. And Higgy said he was working a game that Indiana was playing, and his buddies were sitting there, and he banged him with a tee. And, like, he didn't know if Knight was hot because he had teed him up in front of his friends or made him really cool in front of his friends.
Gave him a little cred.
But he said you never wanted to get stuck standing in front of him. It wasn't that he would chew your ear off. It was he couldn't see. And so he wouldn't move. So he expected you to move as an official. So as the center official, you learn never to stand in front of him.
I'm sure he didn't ask you to move in like the most overly courteous way either.
There was a picture shared last week. Bob Knight, I had to be coaching obviously at Tech, and I believe it was Higgy because it was kind of distorted, but he's smiling almost like Bob Knight said something funny, and so Higgy's laughing. I was like, man, talk about a time capsule there, because I'm thinking of that time period, and that was good stuff.
Also, a big news drop locally yesterday. Fred Petito has retired, and Britt Prince is staying home. She made Amy Williams' day, which actually begins the college basketball slate today with a nooner. Nebraska women are having a nooner with the kids. That's because you're doing Happer show, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because he's down there doing the
got to go control the kids and wrangle them.
There's a lot in Britt Prince staying home for Nebraska. So we'll get into that. Also, the NFL weekend in college football. And will anything happen in Ann Arbor today? Everybody's speculating that this will be the day that Jim Harbaugh is suspended. The clock is ticking. What will happen? And if there is a suspension handed down, will Ryan Walters be the coach to announce it?
He wants to.
Well, that
was a bad beat, by the way.
He is not. Yeah, that was a bad beat. Yeah. But Michigan mauled Purdue as expected. Ryan Walters doubled down. Whew. That's go get yourself some there, Ryan Walters. Please, if you're going to suspend Harbaugh, do it after the season, because I want to see Harbaugh and Ryan Day on the field together.
Yeah.
I think TV does too. So,
I mean, for the football standpoint, 2 of the top 4 teams in college football. But if you don't care about the game, you'll at least tune in to see what happens when the game is over.
Oh, yeah.
Because
the handshake,
which Harbaugh said is typical. Yeah, I'm sure that's what Rule did to him. Rule just blew right by him. The Ryan Walters blow by was fantastic. That was, you know what? If you're going to lean into telling the truth, you just keep playing that game. So maybe today something will happen to Michigan. The clock is ticking and the pressure ramps up on Tony Petitti, the commissioner of the Big Ten. All right. If you got thoughts from the weekend of sports, because I also have some nuggets on what happened with high school football on Friday night, you can always join the show on the Zone Hotline, powered by 42 Degrees The Source, by your mom's house, 951-1620. You can always email us into the Equitable Bank inbox, Equitable Bank, where they take banking personally. I think old man Doug, looked like he was somewhere sunny this weekend.
Oh, good.
Omaha, it was sunny. Great day yesterday.
Yeah, it appears unless he was like at the Cottonwood and the pool's still open, there were palm trees in the background. So I'm saying Arizona. Man, Arizona's a popular place for Nebraskans.
And he likes to golf too. So
yeah,
good
like
spot
they
to
should
go.
Play a bowl game there.
Equitable Bank, where they take banking personally. Gary at 1620thezone.com.
Handley at 1620thezone.com.
On the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Gary Sharp 1620.
At Nick Handley 1620.
All right, we're off and running. Lots to discuss. We will talk about the quarterback because he's your quarterback. He's our quarterback. And what do you do with that quarterback to help him in the last 3 games? Also, there is another issue on offense that does not involve Heinrich Harburg that I think needs to be figured out. A little bit later, Ryan Miller, assistant coach at Creighton, Jacob Bigelow, Arnie Just, all to join us here on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. Omaha's most listened to all sports radio station. Again and again and again. 1620 The Zone.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k, and a $2,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
Hi, everybody. Kent Pavelka here with why I chose Everlevel Concrete Repair for my driveway. They do it all. They fix cracks, lift sunken slabs, protect the finished product from deterioration, and all at a fraction of the price of replacement. It's not a Band-Aid like other repair methods. Everlevel's products are designed to last, which is why they've been voted Best of Omaha again this year. Better yet, it all comes with a transferable warranty. Protect your concrete before winter. Call Everlevel today for your free inspection. Everlevel. They make your driveway Everlevel. Level up.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. If you're having a tough time or thinking about suicide, you're not alone, and there's hope. VA's Veterans Crisis Line has responders who listen and help. Many are veterans or have veteran family members and friends, so they're prepared to address your challenges. Don't wait. Dial 988, then press 1.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Women, were you exposed to toxic substances in the military? Then take note of the PACT Act, which expands benefits and care for all veterans once exposed to environmental hazards. For women veterans, such exposure can lead to reproductive cancers like ovarian, cervical, uterine, breast, and others. Learn more at va.gov/PACT.
Your Omaha Maverick men's and women's basketball teams open at home on Monday at Baxter Arena. The men tip off against Doane University, and the women take on the Illinois State Redbirds. Don't miss the action. Season tickets are still available for both the men's and women's basketball season. Let's pack the Baxter. Get your season ticket or single game tickets now by calling the box office at 402-554-MAVS or by going to omavs.com/tigs.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. You can choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you speaking right away. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks. Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
And now, try Babbel free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Now back to Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, welcome back in on a Monday morning, the 6th of November. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy is here as well. Ryan Miller, Creighton assistant coach, coming up at 8:05. You alluded to something, Nick, earlier, which is an issue with this team. And this is where I've had a disagree with the rule. Hey, I love the fourth quarter. We all like to finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us,
pride ourselves in that.
Yeah, when you finish,
just finish.
But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Nebraska,
there's no finishing.
Nebraska has to figure out how to start. Focus on starting fast. They've gone 6 of the 9 games this year where they haven't scored a point in the first quarter.
Yeah, that's
kind of make it hard on yourself when you start doing that.
But think about this is probably opens up the curtain a little bit more on the Satterfield Harburg. Isn't the first, 10, 15 plays supposed to be scripted?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So what happens on those scripted plays?
I don't know if they're very well scripted, to be honest with you. For instance, I don't, again, maybe need this explained to me. You get a decent gain right out of the gate on the first play. Then you want to go more swing pass. And is that Nebraska's strength? Look, I still believe, even with Heinrich Harburg, you got to show the ability to throw the ball. And I think there have been plays that have been designed. Again, going back to that Northwestern game and the interception, the awful start in that game. We talked about this a lot. That was a good play design. It was a bad execution. I don't know if a horizontal passing game is something that is going to suit this particular offense. Again, with what you have maybe at wide receiver right now compared to what you hope to have in future years as guys evolve. That is going to be a play that's going to probably continue the type of momentum you need on that first drive, to where I always consider that play something that a lot more can go wrong than right. So then all of a sudden you're in a third and tough situation, as opposed to where maybe you're running the ball on the very next play on a second down and 3 or 4, and either you get the first down or you're right there on the doorstep. I don't know. There are just moments where I'm not seeing the flow of this offense catered around the strengths of this offense. And I know sometimes it's tough to find the strengths of this offense, but that to me has been a little bit of an issue as well.
So they struggle to put drives together consistently. That's pretty well known. I mean, we get giddy when they get a 15-play drive against Purdue. So the opening drive, Nebraska early on had some new wrinkles, especially in the run game. And if you're talking about the first drive of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a big fan of fleeks out of the backfield. I mean, Nebraska did, if you want to get positive out of this game. Harburg was a lot better handing off the football. Small things. But having I don't like fleeks in the quarterback handoff game, but they ran fleeks right away. Then you know what the second play is? Fedoni couldn't complete a block, and they need to just dump the whole screen thing.
Yeah.
Nebraska doesn't have the personnel for screens or that tempo screen that they went to on a scoring drive where they shelved that and then they just ran the football. I like some of the new wrinkles early. And then also on that opening drive, if you look at the 3 plays that were put together, they all have a little different feel to them. And what happens on the third down play?
You get stopped.
Harburg overthrew Doss.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
on a bad throw too.
And they ran a good route. That was a good concept to get him open. So it just keeps going back to something that is not new. Satterfield and Harburg are not a good match with each other. They're just not. And then Satterfield decides that we should throw the football a lot on first down. Whoa. That's not the way to go.
Air Nebraska.
And then the next thing you know, a guy who had only thrown 11 passes the previous week in the locker room, and he's thrown 16, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? It's all over the map. And it's not just Satterfield, it's not just Harburg, it's the running back rotation, which I have no idea what they're trying to do there. That is if there's a concern that continues to fester, it is since Irvin and Johnson got injured. What are they doing with running backs?
Right.
The running back rotation is all over the map. Just has no rhyme or reason on why guys can't get lathered up. Yeah. And then just a rotation of 3 guys on the field. And I know that disrupts the flow a little bit. But there's that first quarter, they need to find a way, whether in their script plays, even if they have to script them as easy as they are, and they know exactly this play is going to get 5 yards, going to get 6 yards, they got to find a way to get off to a better start on offense. Because 6 of the 9 games this year in the first quarter, they have not scored a point. And look at Michigan State. Michigan State scored. They kick a field goal to begin the game. Then they have the interception of Harburg in the end zone. And that's the day where you're going, man, we're going to force this guy into some bad mistakes. So you kept Michigan State in the game. I know what goes on in the scripted first or 2 series, that they don't just look pretty precise and bang, bang, bang and get downfield. If it gets to the 3rd series and it looks like what Nebraska offensively looks like, I go, oh, I get it. Now you're off script. But whatever the scripted plays are not leading to an intended result.
You bring up the running back rotation, and this, again, to me kind of goes back to, all right, with the scripts, when you are looking at what you want to do and you're bringing in whether you want to go Emmett Johnson or even see a Joshua Fleeks or Anthony Grant, I feel like, and I think a lot of us were kind of under the impression, and based on what we've kind of heard the coaching staff say, is that Emmett Johnson is kind of that guy that they would like to give, let's say, the lion's share of the work, but more of the carries. But that to me means, okay, then you're getting that guy going in not only the first drive and the second drive too, where whoever that guy is going to be, and let's say it's Emmett Johnson. Because when I think of offensive rhythm for a team that their identity is that they want to run the football, that you've got 3 options right now. One guy is a little bit more experienced, but is starting to show a lot of promise in Emmett Johnson. Anthony Grant, I think what he can bring on his best day is probably the best out of all 3 of them. But again, you've got a turnover problem there. And then you have a wide receiver.
I think there's more than a turnover problem there.
Oh.
Guy carried 30 times in a game last year.
Yeah.
He hardly ever plays.
Yep. But also, then
there's more than a turnover problem there.
You might be right there. But with Joshua Fleeks too, again, there's a guy that, okay, he's maybe going to provide you some speed, but are you relying on him to have the basic, most simple concepts that you need for a running back to have, like the exchange, like being able to attack a hole? To me, it just feels like Emmett Johnson is the guy that you need to, at least if you're going to see what you have with him, this is a perfect opportunity to do so. And I just don't know how you can get a true evaluation if it's kind of, all right, stop and go. He's coming in for a couple plays. Now we're bringing somebody else in. Okay, now you get this drive, Anthony Grant. Okay, now Joshua Fleeks, you're going to get these couple plays. Like allowing Emmett Johnson to get into that rhythm. Thus, I think allowing this offense to get into some type of a rhythm early on, to where that does maybe open up things a little bit more with the option game. That does open up things a little bit more with the play action game, if you want to go that route. And even the Heinrich Harburg rollout game, where you can eliminate some of the decision-making too, when it comes to what he's looking at downfield. Just a lot of those things to me do kind of come back to that inconsistency of what they want to do at running back, as far as having a guy in there for at least consecutive plays and even consecutive series, to where you feel like you are getting that guy in a rhythm. Therefore, you're getting your offense a little bit in a better rhythm as well. It just, to me, has been a great mystery almost every week of, and we get asked this all the time, like, okay, what do we think the running back's workload is going to be? Like, who is going to have the majority of the carries, and then how's it going to trickle down? I think we always feel like right now here, as of late, Emmett Johnson's going to get it, but shouldn't it be a little bit more separation between how much he's getting compared to Anthony Grant, Joshua Fleeks? Or if Anthony Grant, you decide is going to be your guy, isn't there separation between the amount of carries that those guys are getting? And I get it. Heinrich Harburg is part of the running game, But as far as your running backs, I felt like we would see a little bit more separation of how many reps those guys are getting.
I used to think it was maybe guys were tapping out. They're not. Hodgepodge rotation. I will tell you, Emmett Johnson. So Emmett Johnson comes out of the locker room in the third quarter and he runs what the first carry was 11 yards.
Mm-hmm.
You guys remember when Emmett Johnson carried again?
No, I don't.
About halfway through the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't. I just don't understand that. I simply don't understand that.
They didn't have a lot of running back combined carries. They weren't consistent, but it just had no the rotation kind of since you lost your top two running backs makes no sense on what they're trying to do. And I'm here for Anthony Grant at the end of the year putting together a 30 for 30 on what happened to him.
Yeah.
I kind of wondered that watching Saturday as well. I was like, sure could.
I mean, I'll be honest. I was one of those guys, even when you had, I was a huge Ramir fan, big Ramir fan. And Gabe Irvin, I was definitely interested in, and not to Gabe's fault. I mean, he'd battled injuries, so was very excited to see what he looked like fully healthy. But there was at least things up until he got into the teeth of the Big Ten schedule last year of Anthony Grant that you thought, okay, well, that's pretty. You could if this is your second or your third option, that's a pretty good second or third option right there. And so I think of other teams that would have had their running back room, maybe other than Minnesota, would have their running back room just decimated by injuries. How many would have an option like Anthony Grant that at least what he gives you on his best day? And I don't know how many teams would. Yet he's just kind of a mystery. He's
who's
used
more cooked?
sparingly.
Who's more cooked, Anthony Grant or Jeff Sims?
I'm gonna go Jeff Sims barely, but it ain't looking good for Anthony Grant either.
I mean, Jeff Sims is cooked.
He's not.
If there's a discussion on the show today about if it's not Harburg, who is it? Who is it? The only other candidate is Purdy.
Purdy, yeah.
Sims is cooked.
Mm-hmm.
Here is Dave on the 42 Degree The Source hotline. Good morning, Dave.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Look, at the beginning of the year, the coach told everybody that he wants to control the ball at the line of scrimmage, and he wants to do it both at the offensive line and at the defensive line. Now, you guys are usually pretty spot on with your analyses, but I have to say that you've omitted something from your discussion this morning. Gary, you could be the running back and have just as good a results with the offensive line that we have, that Grant has. It does not matter who we put in the backfield, because when you have an offensive line that stinks, you can expect 1 and 2 yard gainers, if that, every single down. So we know we can't run the ball. So scripting running plays doesn't matter. And getting a fast start in the first quarter doesn't matter when you don't have a line, an offensive line that can control the line of scrimmage. That's the first thing. The second thing is we know we can't pass. Right? That's been laid out pretty well on this show. So we have an offense that can't run because we have no line, and we have an offense that can't pass because of our quarterback situation. So what do you say we do about that, fellas?
Well, hey, Dave, I thought the offensive line was not porous. I mean, Michigan State had no respect for throwing the football. So all they did was they pinned their ears back and came after him.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got five. It's basically 5 on 7 or 5 on 8 at times. They were good enough. They weren't great by any means, but they were good enough to allow you to have some success on Saturday.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about just Saturday, Gary. I'm talking about the whole scope of the season. Has our offensive line been impressive to you?
As a fivesome? No.
Well, what do you mean as a fivesome?
Well, I'm not going to – you have to play it as a fivesome. There's certain guys that have been on the offensive line that have been horrible, but they're all together as a five. All five have to play well.
Yeah.
Do you concede that it doesn't matter who our running back is and we have our current five?
No, there's a lot that went into – and let me just focus on Saturday real quick. They had some new wrinkles in the run game. So the offensive line was overwhelmed, and then also – another factor of when you lose a game like this with comparable talent, you need those little things to come through. Nebraska's wide receivers and tight ends were bad blocking on the perimeter. So they tried to get guys out to the perimeter. They just not have wide receivers or tight ends that were blocking very well. And then once they got blown up, I've said this before, Dave, Satterfield's got a good plan A, but when plan A doesn't work, plan B is just like a crapshoot. And that's what you saw there.
Yeah, but the problem is that you got to be able to run between the tackles in order to open up other things, Gary, and they can't do that.
Couldn't do it on Saturday, that's for sure. I mean, Michigan State.
Well, have they done it the whole season?
There have been times where they have, but they also there have been times where they have. They just haven't committed to it.
Well, 80% of the time, Gary, when they try and run between the tackles, they just can't do it. And if you say otherwise, I don't know who you're trying to convince.
All right, Dave, thanks for the phone call.
I would say in other games, going back to, gosh, probably have to go back to some of the non-conference games too, but even in the Illinois game, if I remember that one correctly too, a lot of the success that they were getting running the football didn't really show up until the second half. But to me, that's also having a first half impact.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we talked about the cumulative effect of the offensive line. Like, again, I want to go back to at least a bright spot on the offensive line. And we hear this from Birds all the time, which I think is important when it comes to how you do grade this group. It shouldn't be necessarily as individual, as more so as a five-some, as you pointed out. But like Teddy Prohaska, who again is kind of getting his feet wet again, and now he's making his second full start. Pretty decent run grade, pretty decent pass grade. Again, for a guy that we're hoping can sort of solidify that spot in an area that's been really bad. And if you watch some of the more successful plays running the football in this game, it happened on the left side. And so I do think what we've seen in previous games, maybe you're not seeing the initial hits and bursts in the first half in between the tackles, like Dave is suggesting. But there have been games in the third and even the fourth quarter where we've seen some of those gains start to stretch out a little bit. And, again, kind of playing to what Matt Rule wants to do and close a team out. I think there have been some of those cumulative effect moments for this offensive line. I wholeheartedly feel confident about that.
We're getting a lot of just run the damn ball.
I wore the T-shirt today, but
well,
that's nothing to do with Saturday. It's just a philosophy.
So the bigger discussion here is the running back rotation. Like, this all factors into confusion of Emmett Johnson's in for one play, then he's out for the rest of the series.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what they're doing. They're a mess offensively. When you go on the road in a Big Ten game, you have lost your top 3 wide receivers, let's say. Alex Bullock cannot be the guy that has the most targets.
Right.
He had 9 targets. Yep. That cannot happen on the road in a Big Ten game. That just it can't. It cannot happen that Alex Bullock gets 9 targets. Now, when you are targeted, you got to catch the football.
Right.
I mean, everybody's complicit in this. Poor passing, or when you make the right read and you make the right throw, you got to bail your guy out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Now,
the ball will be there from time to time.
You might change my tune that I'm frustrated about Saturday. I'm trying not to overthink Saturday. Saturday is probably, it was coming. It happens. Nebraska is going to be the same team that they were on Saturday, how they're made up, that will play Saturday against Maryland. Comes down to execution.
Well, what you just said about the running backs and not knowing what they're doing, that is cause for frustration.
Well, but again, and you're right, but tell me what we saw on Saturday that wasn't there the previous 2 weeks.
Yeah, thank you. That's what this is. They got burned. Okay. They've been walking on the high wire. They have had the same identity. They got burned on Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
This result was always in the cards. It always was.
We just didn't want to accept it.
Right.
But why we have to accept it is Michigan State played better than Michigan State's played in a while.
Yeah.
They beat Nebraska. Nebraska had a quarterback who can't hold on to the ball or make decisions, whether he's running or passing. And you got beat by 2 quarterbacks who should be handing you the football with a note attached to it that didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. And you got beat in special teams. They had a significant advantage in special teams. If I'm playing a 1-score game and I'm trying to figure out, okay, this, and this, there's going to be some glaring things that pop up. Those have been there.
Yes.
Those have been there.
Special teams hasn't been a rock for Nebraska this year.
It keeps going back to, gosh, we already knew this, but Saturday just reiterated it.
Yeah, it
we
did.
put so much on the defense. So much on the defense to keep you in a game and live up to the standard that they have established.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that in the first half. And Nebraska was chasing points. 10-10 at halftime, I don't care. They were still chasing. I'm not going to overthink Saturday. Okay? Your biggest thing this week is you don't let Saturday's performance beat you against Maryland.
And I'll add something real quickly on top of the Michigan State part of it as far as how they defended here real quickly. You talked about the mistakes that Michigan State made. You had two quarterbacks that were, well, we didn't know as much about Sam Leavitt, but remember, Hauser was lifted because he was so inefficient and he was such a non-factor against Minnesota that they went to Sam Leavitt. They were able to use both of them, but again, no mistakes, no crucial mistakes by those guys. And this is where I say, we already know what Harburg is, okay? But Michigan State, on script, they flipped it. They didn't have that crucial mistake by their quarterbacks. They were able to get some plays out of their quarterbacks where, other than a decent run by Heinrich Harburg, we didn't get that out of Heinrich Harburg, and we had the mistakes to go with it. So there again, you tip your cap to Michigan State and say, good on you, who did not implode in the fourth quarter like they have been.
All right, the F part, I'm going to finish this hour, and then we'll get an update with Jimmy. The frustrating part is, through all of this, that Nebraska is who Nebraska is, and there's a dose of reality by a team that beat them in certain areas. There was still an opportunity. Michigan State was good early, bad late. Michigan State's clock management at the end of the game opened the door for you. And we'll never know if this game would have gone to overtime. I mean, I think the Harburg fumble is how do you not review that?
Yeah.
Or the Coleman spot on the pass.
Yes, that should have been a first down.
Just pile that on to what Saturday was, the inconsistency in officiating. And I don't know if we'll get a response from the Big Ten. They'll say, no, we don't comment on judgment calls. But those are two key calls. And then, of course, the pass into the end zone, where even when Dean Blandino, which we don't say Dean Blandino enough, we should just Dean Blandino says that there are a couple of things that should be overturned. Man.
Yeah.
All right. Lots more on Saturday, moving forward to Maryland. In the Big Ten West, where Nebraska still has a chance to win the Big Ten West.
Yep.
You guys want to do that today?
That's the point.
Oh, it's
exactly.
there.
It's all there for you.
There's silver
But
lining.
they could have helped themselves
Exactly.
on Saturday.
There's the biggest F part.
All right. Update with Jimmy's coming up next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a little bit of slowdown near 102nd and L. Then on Center, be prepared for a bit of a delay from 168 to 156. And other than that, it looks like your commute this morning should be pretty smooth, even if you're running a bit late. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
Sometimes life throws you a curveball and you need a solution fast. A solution to help you make payroll, to save your house, to keep growing, or fund a startup, to fix a roof or other major repair. Saul's is your fast, local, confidential solution. Get the cash you need today with Saul's.
J-Tech Construction reminds you that this time of year, your home's energy efficiency is under tension. Don't let your windows cost you by raising your energy bills this winter. J-Tech Construction will come out and provide you with a free estimate on upgrading your windows and keeping your energy costs down. They have custom-made, energy-efficient windows that keep the outside out with the professional installation you would expect. Contact the official exterior and solar experts of the Huskers. J-Tech Construction, your exteriorexperts.com.
Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is always looking to make your game day bigger and better. Cheer on your favorite team this season in front of a 22-foot LED video wall showing up to 8 games at once. TVs are everywhere else you can look with a state-of-the-art audio and video system. Enjoy a Big O pizza or award-winning char-buffed wings. There's just no better way to do your game day. Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, 173rd and West Center Road, and for takeout at 162nd and Maple.
I can't wait for what's next, even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Pixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Hey everyone, Josh and John here for the FanDuel Sportsbook, where right now new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. John, that means $150 if your team wins in those bonus bets. And the money line means you're picking the winner. Find a team that you like this weekend in the NFL. Cincinnati hosting Houston. Put that money line wager down and take advantage of this great deal today.
And this app is so easy to use. Not only can you bet the money lines and the totals, but there's also builds in some of these props. It could really pay out big. So again, for $150 in bonus bets by winning a money line bet, do it right now by going to FanDuel.com/1620. 21 plus in present in Iowa. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued with non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
Let it fly. Your elevated sports bar experience. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620, The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620, The Zone.
There's so much stuff going on this time of the year. It's great. Makes up for the time of the year when there's not much going on. So, all right, let's get to it. High school volleyball state champions were crowned over the weekend. Just some of them, Lincoln Southwest and Scott win in Class A and B, respectively. The Skyhawks do it for the 9th consecutive year. That's amazing. I mean, that just gets overlooked. That's wow. 9. It's hard to do it once, to do it 9 straight. That's anyway. Speaking of doing a lot of things 9 straight and then some, top-ranked Nebraska volleyball drops the first 2 sets at Penn State Friday for entertainment purposes, and then they sweep the next 3 to score a dramatic win in 5. The atmosphere in that place was pretty insane. It's pretty good. Still need to watch that Big Ten Network documentary, though, after. They then sweep Rutgers yesterday. They now come home for a 3-match homestand beginning Wednesday night against Northwestern. Number 17, Creighton picks up its 9th consecutive sweep with a dominant win over number 25, Marquette, yesterday at Sokol. The victory moves the Blue Jays into a 3-way tie for first place in the Big East standings, with Marquette and St. John's, who are also 12-2 in league play. Creighton 21-4 overall to go with that league. 9 consecutive sweeps also. Omaha volleyball sweeps St. Thomas on the road, sweeps the season series, remain in first place in the Summit. They're back at 500 for the first time this season at 12-12, 11-3 in league play. They head into the final week of the regular season. Just 2 matches left. They opened the week at Denver on Wednesday night, returning home one last time for the regular season finale, high noon Saturday against South Dakota State. College basketball opening day, believe it or not. Nebraska women host Northwestern State at PBA. Streaming kids game at noon. Come to the PA announcement. State for basketball and kids pop. Nebraska men host Lindenwood at PBA. Tip off just after 7 o'clock, literally just after 7 o'clock, 7:01 if you want to be exact. Creighton women, ranked number 22, are at the Sanford Pentagon to take on North Dakota State tonight at 6. Max team welcomes Florida A&M to the Chi tomorrow night at 8. Omaha women welcome Illinois State to Baxter this evening at 5. Following that contest, the Mavericks men take on Doane. Tip-off around 7:30, give or take. College football, everyone could see this coming, especially if you watched the game Saturday night. After USC surrenders 101 total points the past 2 games, defensive coordinator Alex Grinch was relieved of his duties yesterday. He was Oklahoma's defensive coordinator from 19 to 21. They don't miss him there either. And he had allowed 34.5 points per game this season, bottom 30 in the country in nearly every statistical category, including 120th in rushing defense, 107th against the pass. D-line coach Sean Nua and linebacker coach Brian Odom will share the duties the rest of the season. NFL carnage yesterday. Giants quarterback Daniel Jones leaves a 30-6 loss to the Raiders in the first half. Non-contact knee injury. They fear torn ACL would end his season, as if things can't get much worse for the Giants this entire season. It's just been bad since the 40-0 opening night loss. Vikings running back Cam Akers, who was actually the 3rd quarterback listed for the Vikings, suffers an injury to his Achilles. The Achilles and the Vikings, not good, but they did come back to win 31-28 over the Falcons as Josh Dobbs signed. Didn't even know the names of the guys on the team. He comes in as a backup after their starting quarterback, Jaron Hall, knocked out with a concussion, and he leads them to the comeback. And C.J. Stroud sets a record for passing yards by a rookie as he finishes with 470 yards, throwing 5 touchdowns, no interceptions in a 40-37 comeback win over Tampa Bay. That was one of those you're thankful for the red zone because that was the game of the day. And finally, because I cannot let this get away because we need something to be positive. Oh, 2 things. This, USC falls out of the top 25 first time under Lincoln Riley, but Deion preaches the process as the Buffs fall to 4-5. He had some very questionable clock management down the stretch against Oregon State.
Right before halftime.
That's what I don't get it, but
it's November. Who you are.
They are who we are.
Yes.
Or they are who they are.
They're a 4-5 football team. It's like Nebraska's 5-4.
They could finish 4-8.
It's great. You get on a run, you get a lot of attention, and he's the greatest return on investment of Colorado, but he's probably they probably won above where they should be. But that's who they are.
Yeah.
And that's, now when there's adversity hits and you get squeezed, you get to see the real person come out.
Yep.
And they have some adversity at Colorado. And they're fighting against the reporters. They're making a change, a weird change of the demotion of Sean Lewis and the elevation of Pat Shurmur.
Somebody will hire them a good coach next year in Sean Lewis.
He should get out of Boulder. But everybody's talking about the transfer portal and how many guys off this year's roster at CU will go. How many coaches will be retained now that they've gotten one full year at the power level with Deion?
There'll be some people like, I'm out. Who needs a quality coach to come to their staff? And they have some good coaches on their staff.
They're 4-5, and we'll start treating them like a 4-5 team. Will the fans stick around because isn't there snow on the mountains?
There is. Yes, there is.
There is. They got some last weekend.
All right.
It's time to hit the slopes.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. So back to Nebraska volleyball, which won yesterday against Rutgers. In tribute to Scott Docterman, it's the Nebraska volleyball effect. Record crowd at Penn State during the whiteout.
It's fun.
And that terrible, you know what was not fun? The end line view that they always have in the rec hall at Penn State. I hate that.
Where it's like super crowded, like you have like people in front of the camera the entire time too?
Well, it's a little bit, but like more on the end.
Okay.
I don't like the end line camera view, but they have a record crowd there. They have a record crowd yesterday in New Jersey. They had 6,700 people there. Majority of them were Nebraska fans. Caitlin Clark goes around and fills your house. Nebraska volleyball is doing that because they'll go to Iowa City in this little 2-week stretch where they can kind of reset. It's not ranked team after ranked team after ranked team.
Got a lot of fans at Penn State, by the way.
Iowa's sold out. But back to Friday night. This is one of the more likable athletic teams that's been in the state of Nebraska. Wearing blue, red, or black because they compete. They're also, they're rock stars. If you're playing for Nebraska volleyball right now, you are an absolute rock star. They're all over TikTok. They're having fun. And one thing that program is built on is when they got down 2-0, nobody's body language changed. You never saw a deer in the headlights look or like, we are the number 1 team in the country. And the first time we get beat is we're going to get zapped out of here. Nobody changed. And then you need a star to be a star. When it's not your night, your star needs to take over. And Beeson took over and they ended up with what I think is a sweet reverse sweep. How cool is that? How demoralizing is that? You're down 2-0, and the next thing you lose in 5. But they never flinched. They got some grit. They're well coached, and they're really, really good. They got outplayed for the first 2 sets. But even look in the 5th set, they were up 8-3, and Penn State came back.
Yeah,
they have
was it 9-9 at one point?
Man, they have established themselves as one of the more relatable, likable athletic teams that this state has seen in a long time. And they're taking everybody on this journey. And then, by the way, you watch that, and then they show the BTN special. Man, BTN does that really well. If you've not seen it, I'll just give you a little
it's on my DVR
footnote or a little nugget. They capture the essence of what Nebraska volleyball is in this state. Pretty powerful. Pretty cool that they have a special season going like they do.
The thing that I've kind of enjoyed about this team, and you hit on a couple of points there too, but there's just different personalities, I think, for every moment for this team too. I always go back to Becca Alec because she's kind of, she talks a little bit of the trash. She's not afraid to kind of get after not the other team in a way that is like disrespectful, but she'll let you know when they're feeling it. You mentioned Beeson, and we saw this against Wisconsin too, where you've got a freshman who is struggling early on, but then all of a sudden finds her way like Harper Murray does. But Beeson's sort of the calming influence there towards the end of that match too, in that epic win over Wisconsin. And didn't have a chance to see Nebraska get down because I was doing hockey, but when I got back, just watching them go into the fifth set, by the time I started watching this match, I would have thought it was just kind of business as usual, like just kind of watching their body language. But again, even Lainey Choboy, like her energy, like it's just, they've got someone at every level from a personality standpoint. They're all obviously totally skilled, but you have some quiet confidence. You have a little bit more in your face confidence, but it's confidence nonetheless. And it's a team that in that moment against a Penn State team, that's still a pretty damn good volleyball program. When you're able to do that, it'd be one thing if all of a sudden, like they were playing against, say, Rutgers yesterday, and they just had this really weird start and you couldn't figure things out early on. All of a sudden they wake up in the right moment and they win that game. It's okay. That's one thing, but to do that against Penn State, that is pretty remarkable given how good of a program that is too. And I keep, it's hard not to start thinking about all these moments against Wisconsin at home or on the road against Penn State. And they still got to go to Wisconsin as well. But how all of these moments with this team that you got a lot of fresh faces, and even Merritt Beeson, who didn't play for Nebraska a year ago, but has played a lot of big-time college volleyball at Florida. You've got all of these players that have come
against Wisconsin, by the way.
Yes, she is. Yeah. Hopefully can make that 3-0, maybe 4-0. But you have all these players that have sort of come together and they're in this ultra-talented program, and you have this amazing coach in John Cook, but you're going through these types of moments together and just kind of watching how they sort of come out at the other end. I know you never want to start pointing to national championship, but you look at certain things when you go back and watch a team's run to it, and you can always point out certain moments of the season. And I feel like we're seeing a lot of those sort of play in front of us.
That's why the special season, you need those moments.
Yeah. But you need those personalities too. And they've got them. They've got every personality that you would want in all of those situations, which, and again, it's very likable. It's very relatable. Like you said, very likable, I think is a good way to put it. But it's just, I think it connects with a lot of people, maybe even more so than we've seen in a while.
So I did not predict that all three would make the NCAA tournament, but Omaha had a difficult non-con. They got into the Summit League and they're rolling right now. Watch out for Creighton. That time of the year.
Well, 9 straight sweeps.
And they're starting to turn it up, and sharing is caring. If you watch their sweep against Marquette, I mean, they swept Marquette yesterday.
It was also good.
Yeah, they might be back into the range of hosting. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing for Creighton. I mean, they have gone out early when they have hosted. Would it be better if they went on the road? But I'm at the point now, I wouldn't be surprised on the same side of the bracket in the same region will be Nebraska and Creighton. You imagine a Sweet 16 in the Devaney Center? Nebraska and Creighton aren't playing each other, but they're there together.
Yeah.
And then can you imagine the tension convention if Nebraska and Creighton played to go to the Final Four?
What the city would be like, too. I mean, think about it. Like, this is the great time when we get to postseason volleyball.
What would the J-Sker do?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Who do you root for?
Probably have the dual color jersey.
I mean, what's the J-Sker going to do Saturday when a 1 o'clock basketball game? And
Creighton is putting themselves, not a surprise, they're putting themselves in a good position where, I mean, I think they're back to hosting, but I don't know if you maybe going on the road might be a better thing.
Maybe just ask, hey, we'll take a road game.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. When we come back, there's a lot of emails into the Equitable Bank inbox about what happened on Saturday. We will talk about Harburg because I think there are a couple of things that they can do moving forward. Maybe they're already doing them, but boy, they need to work on them even more to at least take a step forward Saturday and the following Saturday. It's not all of a sudden going to get overnight. Oh my gosh. The one warning flag that I saw on Saturday. So we'll get into that. Plus continues to make headlines and feel good. And we'll share some thoughts about Fred Petito. At 41 years at Millard North, announced his retirement yesterday. I thought he would go one more year because they've got a great junior class. But he said the time was right for him, that he has stepped down. And now a really good job is open in the Metro. All that to come as we roll till 10. Ryan Miller, assistant coach for Creighton. The Jays open up tomorrow night. The road to Arizona against Florida A&M. Ryan will join us coming up at 8:05. Jacob Bigelow, Arnie Just, all right here on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. Hey, shop Buick GMC first and experience the difference. They got that large indoor showroom at 119th and I. New and pre-owned inventory. They are packed in there. Nice, easy place to peruse. Stylish SUVs that fit the whole family comfortable, like the Enclave or the Envision, or those capable trucks like the Sierra that can do it for you. They simply have something for everyone now, in person or online at WoodhouseBuickGMC.com. Check out the 23 GMC Yukon. They got the Super Cruise driver assistant technology, and they got 8,400 pounds of available towing capacity. Plus, it's arriving and available, the 24 GMC Sierra 2500, which has max towing up to 22,000 pounds. If you're in the market for an SUV that you want the Buick driver confidence that gives you driver assistant technology, the Buick Enclave is your home. Check them out today, in person, 119th and I, or online at WoodhouseBuickGMC.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
When you think of the white-collarist of white-collar fan base, professional sports, what comes to mind? Could I make an argument, John, for the Los Angeles Lakers?
I don't know if this is my answer because the Lakers are a pretty good answer. The Cowboys.
The Cowboys, certainly.
I had a listener suggest the Commanders.
That's a pretty white-collar fan.
I think that's a good one. That's a really good one.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from Canoyer Garden Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
A cool start Monday morning, though, warming up nicely to start the week. We'll see partly sunny skies with a light northwest breeze, highs in the upper 60s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
Don't miss a moment this fall. Head over to KuglerVision.com right now. That's KuglerVision.com.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a little bit of slowdown along Highway 370 at Golden Boulevard, and on Dodge, be prepared for a little bit of slowdown from 84 to 77. Then along L Street, there's going to be a very minor delay from 102nd all the way to 83rd. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Romeo's Mexican Food and Pizza.
Enjoy Romeo's Grande Pizza and Taco Combo. One large 2-topping pizza, 4 soft-shell tacos, chips, and queso dip for only $29.99. Only at Romeo's. Carry out only.
Romeo's Mexican Food and Pizza. At the typical restaurant.
It's the most time-honored tradition to start the weekend, grabbing a cold one from a local Nebraska brewery. Let's be real here. It's hot outside, and you don't want to drink the same boring beer as those Hawkeye fans. Drink icy cold, Nebraska-brewed beers, cider, or seltzers instead. Each week, we're putting the spotlight on a unique Nebraska brewery with One Beer Friday. Share your brew on social media with the hashtag One Beer Friday, and you'll be entered to win a $25 gift card to a local Nebraska brewery. Nebraska is the good life with great beer. Click nebraska.beer to learn more.
Hey everyone, Josh and John here for the FanDuel Sportsbook, where right now new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. John, that means $150 if your team wins in those bonus bets. And the money line means you're picking the winner. Find a team that you like this weekend in the NFL, maybe Cincinnati hosting Houston. Put that money line wager down and take advantage of this great deal today.
And this app is so easy to use. Not only can you bet the spreads and the money lines and the totals, but there's also exciting player props, and look for some of the creative ways that FanDuel builds in some of these props. It could really pay out big. So again, for $150 in bonus bets by winning a money line bet, Do it right now by going to FanDuel.com/1620. 21 plus in present in Iowa. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame moneyline wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued with non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
This hour is powered by Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair, Nebraska on 1620 The Zone.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Nice. Welcome back in. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy here as well. Equitable Bank inbox. Terry writes in, hi, guys. Looking for positives after Michigan State. One of the few is, we're to the point of the season now where we can play all the red shirts. Probably not as starters, but work them in for some plays to see what they can do. Down to the final three.
Yep.
They played the numbers game. James Williams is at 3 games?
3 now. Yeah.
Ooh.
And he makes an impact.
Well, so coming up against Maryland, if you can get to baby Tua, you can cause issues.
Yep.
I don't want to poo-poo Maryland. So Maryland's in their swoon, but that game was competitive until the fourth quarter, and then Penn State just blew them away. But if you can get pressure on baby Tua, you're going to be cooking with peanut oil. Penn State got pressure, and he's throwing grounders. And also, if you saw what their rushing total was, they're going against a really good rush defense on Saturday. But Maryland's a 3-point favorite. That line feels right to me. But you'll see, now Ethan Nation is he at 4 games now?
I think he's at 4, yes. Yes, he would be at 4.
I don't think you want to burn a red shirt just to be a punt return guy.
Right.
So sit out and we'll see you in the bowl game.
If he's out there for a punt return or a couple of punt returns, if that's what he's out there for, and every ball that leaves the foot of any punter going forward and it's unreturnable, that doesn't sit well. I get it. There's a sense of urgency with trying to get something out of that, but it's such a crapshoot if you're even going to have something returnable to begin with, and that would be the only reason right now. So
I think we have an epidemic. Is that the right word in the punt return game in football? Look at how many teams. There's a punt that Kemp fielded inside of the 10 or fair caught inside of the 10 that would have gone into the end zone. And Bishop brought this up on Big Red Overreaction. And listen, yesterday or Saturday taught me to appreciate DeMornay Pearsonell's 2014 season even more and to appreciate this defense because they put so much on this defense. Is around football, hell, I saw it with my own team in the NFL yesterday in Germany, fielding a punt at the 2-yard line. There are more teams that either fair catching inside of the 10 or they're returning punts that are inside of the 10.
Yeah, both levels. Yeah, absolutely.
So where did we need to get the special teams together and have a convention? We need to have them all in the same room.
What is the special teams convention? I feel like that's like in Boise, Idaho.
Yeah,
it's not in Vegas.
Feels like maybe like Bozeman.
Yeah, there you go.
Pretty.
Yeah. It could be fun to attend, but it's a great question because I've definitely noticed it in the NFL, in college football more so than the times that we were seeing Jordan Westerkamp do this. And I feel like from the last 5 years, probably, you do see a lot of fair catches inside the 10. You see a lot of people trying to make returns inside the 5-yard line. I'd be really curious to know, especially in the game of football where analytics has also had its fair share of, is there some type of percentages that are being played that are either being ignored or something that is leading you to believe that it is something you can actually do and come out not as bad as you would, the traditional thinking would lead you to believe. I'm really curious on why that is the case right now, because it's all you have to do. Watch a Sunday, and I guarantee you'll see at least one team, if not handful of guys, do it in the NFL as well on Saturdays.
Kay Kuz we're big defensive fans of the NFL's Kansas City Chiefs.
It is a good defense. Really good defense.
What if the Chiefs were known for defense, not Mahomes?
Oh,
like the old days.
What if Nebraska, from here on out, if you go back and look at its history, what if Nebraska was just known for defense? Now they got to have some offense, but what if rural football program was built on defense?
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, goes with the whole black shirts deal.
Kind of follows along in his history of Temple and Baylor. They've been serviceable defenses. Now he's not had this one like he knows now under Tony White, and he's probably not had a defensive coordinator that's going to show up on every list that is published about future USC defensive coordinators. And Tony White should.
Yeah.
He's got a connection to the West Coast, and he's had a really good stretch of coordinating defenses at Syracuse, and then in a brief time here at Nebraska. Kekus writes in, don't know if there is much I can learn from the offense at this point. True.
Yeah.
My only question, honestly, is what they saw in Sims and what happened for him to miss so badly. They're going to end up with another portal quarterback, so they need to look in the mirror. That's the hesitation on quarterback evaluation with Rule and Satterfield together. Listen, Jeff Sims, they needed a quarterback. They fell in love with Jeff Sims. They got glowing recommendations. They thought they could fix him in the turnover DNA, that he'd be right for this offense. And it didn't work out. And Jeff Sims is cooked. Okay. It's sad to see, but between the ears, I think the guy is cooked. So the question is, if it's not Harburg, are we going, you insert Purdy?
Yeah.
And Chubba Purdy appears to be on a milk carton.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the part of the quarterback discussion. And they needed a quarterback. I don't know that the door was open for Casey Thompson to come back. And I'm not saying it from the head coach and the OC. The more I think about this, when Casey Thompson left, did you see an outpouring of support from his teammates? And I'm not throwing Casey under the bus.
No.
The guy's a different dude.
Mm-hmm.
He was different than Nebraska's had. Yeah, he was a business guy.
The businessman, first and foremost.
When you interacted with him, there were times where you had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So he's a little bit different. So because that came up on Big Red Overreaction as well. What if Casey?
Right.
I'm not certain that the door was open for Casey to come back with teammates.
I think it was best for both
Did
parties.
you guys see an outpouring
No.
of support? Go get him.
No.
Hey, we loved you, Casey.
No.
And Casey did a lot for Nebraska last year. So we need to move that to the side. But they fanned. I'll give them a mulligan. They can't miss. The question will be in the offseason, Harburg isn't going anywhere. You're not throwing Harburg to the scrap heap, but you're not throwing him in to be the starting quarterback against UTEP right now. Is if you dabble in the portal, and Danny Kalen's going to come from Bellevue West, not ready to step in, do you go for a young quarterback in the portal and an old quarterback in the portal? Because they need two. They need two quarterbacks additionally on this roster. Or do you reassess and try and build the bridge? And there's a guy at Westside that is leading a football program that's into the semis for the 5th straight year.
That's a
Do
winner.
you say, can we re-engage?
Please.
No, I think they need two. But if you're going to the portal, if you're not going to find a high school guy, you need a young guy and you need an older guy.
Yeah, it's almost the exact same thing you did when you had Casey and Chubba. Is you had the older guy, the guy from Texas that you hoped you could get 2 years, but you knew at the very least you're going to get one out. He'd be kind of your bridge guy. And along those lines, if everything stayed intact with the coaching staff, that was also going to give a year where Mark Whipple didn't have to necessarily coach up that much of Casey Thompson, but a guy that he had a connection with Chubba Purdy, then he could help develop him into that offense because everybody was going to, again, stay intact. No one was going to lose their jobs. And then Chubba would be your guy in the future. And then everything else in that quarterback room sort of situates itself, whether it's, guys sort of seeing the writing on the wall and they end up hitting the transfer portal. Maybe they, now if you're talking about this coaching staff, maybe there are other position opportunities that they could help you at. I think just knowing how that looks right now with Danny Kalen, if he's coming in the first year and that he's not, and I think everybody would say that he's not coming in as a true freshman and going to be the guy. I think it does make sense to have two of them, because what if we continued to see every year in Nebraska football, multiple quarterbacks are used, and it's because of injuries as well. So if you do I know some people be like, well, you could have the veteran quarterback if he's your starter, wherever you find that guy. And Heinrich Harburg could be a very reliable backup quarterback. Well, is that what this offense wants to be next year? But that's the question. If that's the offense that this team is going forward, Well, I don't know what type of attractive quarterback you're going to bring over to Nebraska other than what you currently have with Heinrich Haarberg. And I think we can all agree it's probably not what this team wants to be. It's not like Marcus Satterfield came in and said, hey, you know what? I want to learn the option from Ron Brown. That's why I took this job. No, that's not why. So the answer to that is it's not the offense that they want to be. So if you're someone who thinks, well, at the very least, Heinrich Haarberg could be your backup quarterback. Can he, though? If you need to play significant series in an offense that is sort of evolving and moving away from maybe some of what his true skills are, and all of a sudden you're put in a pinch where you have to play him again, what do you have to go back to do with your offense again? So I think it does make sense to have to.
The reality of the quarterback position in Nebraska is this. There is no right answer. There's no easy answer. And they ride Heinrich Haarberg, and they hope for big plays. So you're going to get probably, in a series of 4 plays, you're probably going to get 2 that are one that is meh, and then 1 big play. Saturday, they never got the big play out of the passing game like they have in the past. Here's the red flag that I saw on Saturday with Haarberg, because Haarberg is who he is. Okay, his footwork needs help. His just reading needs help. I don't know if they have an offense that's set up where he can change the play or they're just running first read. Because there was twice on Saturday where he just went with the first read and he locked onto it.
Yep.
And there were guys that were open opposite of that. And we say that probably once or twice a week. Here's the thing that is glaring to me about Haarberg from Saturday. Yeah, he's gutsy. He's a big guy. He takes a lot of hits, but he gets right back up. I think watching him, and he was, for the first time, pretty skittish. I think the hits are starting to take a toll mentally and physically. Because look at this, guys. There were times on Saturday, and trust me, he didn't play well. I mean, he was 0 for 5, throwing the ball down the field 20 times. He overthrew guys' picks, all that stuff. There would be times, the clock in his head isn't great, but he would try, instead of avoiding a sack, would move into the pile where there were Nebraska offensive linemen and Michigan State defensive linemen.
Yep.
Instead of moving away from it, he would move into it. So I think as these hits continue to pile up, mentally and physically, they're starting to impact his game. They just didn't get the big play out of him. He is who he is, okay? 2 bad plays, 1, and then give me that big play. That big play never came, except for him running it late in the game for 43 yards.
It's a great observation on that. I could not agree more of, and he saw a little bit of this the previous week too. Remember we talked about how when he had the fumbling issue, he would sort of almost lean into a defender as opposed to maybe 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, you would see him trying to make a move or even trying to instigate the contact himself, where he would try to just level a guy. This is what was kind of tough to watch on Saturday, is he'd be in the pocket. That first look wouldn't be there. He would maybe kind of look to his left or right to see if there was anything like open running wise. But if nothing really presented itself, is almost kind of he resigned to the pocket collapsing at that point. And at that point, it wasn't the offensive line's fault because they were giving him some ample time, I thought. And it was, he would almost kind of lean into it a little bit. And again, this is not, I don't want anybody to twist this of an indictment on his toughness, because I think that's the one thing, characteristic that Heinrich Haarberg has more than anything is the kid is just, I mean, he's an absolute warrior.
Yeah, thank God he has that. But
yes.
I need a quarterback that's going to complete simple plays.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And, and the other part about this is too, when it comes to Heinrich Haarberg on the field, and I know people are so quick to see a guy that is struggling and you want to immediately look down the bench and say, okay, what about Sims or what about Chubba Purdy? I think and we've talked about this with Sims. I think we've gone beyond that point where you're not going back there with Sims. So if it was anybody else, it'd be Chubba Purdy. But I would say this too. When the offense is sputtering and Heinrich himself is making mistakes, I'm somebody that likes to lock in on the sideline. And how is he being treated on the sideline? And this again goes back to the character of Jeff Sims, who I think has handled this about as good as you can. He is always the first one there, arm around him, and he's talking to him. But you will see from time to time a defensive player come up, whether it's Luke Reimer, Jamari Butler, and they will be one of the first ones to go over them, arm around him, hand on the helmet. I think they still genuinely believe in him being on the field that he can still make plays enough to get the job done. I think that's how the players feel.
Well, they got to support him.
They do, and I think they do a good job of that.
I mean, he's their guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all. I mean, Rule will talk today about Sims and Purdy and keeping them healthy and, whenever they're ready.
Oh, yeah.
And
I feel good with any of them.
Because you do that.
Right? Yeah.
Okay? That's the optics, the public verbal optics.
I feel good if we had to play any three of them.
But
do you?
The last three games, and this isn't new, I mean, just off of a loss, are they limiting Harburg into just one read? I can't imagine they're doing that, even with a developing quarterback. But do they change some stuff here in the last 3 weeks and a lot of max protect happens? Because nobody has any concern that Harburg's going to beat you with his arm.
No.
And also, then they're like, you know what? We can contain him and run. Harburg didn't run very well outside of that 43-yard touchdown, or not, that run that got him to Emmett Johnson, then scored to make it 20-17. So do they say, let's go more max protect when we're going to throw the football? There are sometimes in the passing game, they're just simple plays that got to be made to keep momentum going. And those plays haven't been made. You didn't erase them with a big play. Thus, you get what happened on Saturday. So we've talked about this for weeks now. There's no right answer at quarterback.
You're in a bad spot.
The answer for quarterback is what you do in 24. But for right now, you got to figure out 3 more football games, what to do on offense that includes throwing the forward pass periodically.
Yep. This is what you have. It's a bad spot, but it's what you have.
That belly option, which you love.
I love it.
Hey, good on Michigan State.
Yeah,
they tried to run it early. Michigan State diagnosed it. Michigan State had a really good game plan. I mean, they designed to have Harburg say, hey, you go ahead and beat me. And we don't think you can beat us. I mean, what they did, they had a couple of times with their cornerback they would bring up. They would stick him in a running play, in a run fit. It was just, they had a good game plan. They said, we're going to make number 10 beat us. And number 10 didn't beat him.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's going to do from here on out. Let's sneak in Mike here before the break. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, guys. Hey, just kind of piggybacking off of everybody. It's like this team, if the defense does not play outstanding, then we're kind of in trouble. We need to win the field position battle a lot too. I just think when we lose a field position, we got to go a long ways, and then we're in trouble. We got to have long drives. But Harburg needs to learn to slide, because I think you're right. Them hits he takes big ones all the time. He don't duck anything, or he needs to learn to slide and get down when he does run. And I agree with you on the passing. I wonder if they are limiting, because there has been a time where you can just see he's going to throw it downfield, and if somebody's coming across the middle and they're wide open, there ain't nobody close to him, and he don't throw it. Now, whether he don't see it or he's told not to throw it or scared to throw it, I don't know. But and then just a question on Purdy. Do you think would parents or anything be involved about we're not going to play him because and save eligibility because he'll be in the portal? Think any other thing like that goes on, or no?
You mean they're not going to waste 4 games so he loses a year of eligibility, Mike?
Right.
No, I don't think so. I don't know what's going on with Purdy, because he went from being the number 2 guy to not basically being an afterthought.
Yeah.
Right. You guys know I live over here in Iowa.
Yep.
And the state fans over here, they're all of a sudden like, Chuba was supposed to be better than Brock, and none of them over here can believe that with the quarterback play at Nebraska, that he's third and not getting a shot. So
yeah, well,
I don't know.
He was a highly rated recruit coming out of Arizona. And Mike, thanks for the phone call. And Brock was, I think there's about an 800 difference in terms of rankings between the brothers. They were coached up better. Brock Purdy was coached up really well at Iowa State. Harburg hasn't been coached up well.
Yeah.
And you have to And I don't know. This might just be who he is from here on out. And he's a good backup quarterback.
And they're doing it again.
He's a solid backup quarterback. But your quarterback that's going into week 10 of the season, his first time on the field this year was as a H-back / tight end.
Yeah.
So you have to live with the reality of you're going to get 2 cheese plays.
Mm-hmm.
1, okay. And then you hope for that one big play.
Yep.
Because does the pass to Coleman on the last drive make sense? How he threw it and how it was completed? He threw a dart.
Yeah.
That looked like a big boy quarterback throw, right? So there's your 1 and 4.
Yeah, he'll give you that every now and then. And I don't know if this is anything, but I was sort of taken back when he and Emmett Johnson sit down after the game and are talking, and maybe this is just how he has to be. And again, maybe this is why the guys in the locker room really like him. But the amount of optimism that he had based on that performance and what they were going to see going forward, it kind of circles back, I think, in a way to your point about where he was the previous couple of years in being developed and being coached. And I just think that he's realistic with, he understands that he is still learning rapidly. Now, what we see and what he hopes to be as a quarterback by the end of the season could be 2 completely different things, but he's going to be the guy going forward unless he gets knocked out of a game. So the fact that he is extremely confident after a game like that, a performance like that, where he's taken ownership, but he's reassuring that they and he are going to be so much better after that type of a game, because I think looking back and every time they've come off the field, he's probably seeing things that he left on the field. Again, this is another guy that he just has not been developed at all. And so I can at least appreciate the fact that he is still hungry in the learning process and hoping that something, again, where you're missing certain guys that are open across the field when you're one looking, that at some point it maybe slows down for him a little bit, because that's how I imagine it right now, especially when he goes back to throw the ball, that everything is just happening way too fast for him.
All right. Ryan Miller, assistant coach at Creighton's, coming up after the top of the hour. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, when it comes to DJ's Dugout, there is not a better place to watch all of the football action, from the college game to the NFL game, of course, all of your Nebraska game days as well, at DJ's Dugout, because they got 7 metro area locations with tremendous media walls. So there's never a bad seat in the house. And it doesn't have to be just on a Husker Saturday. It can be on any day, because they have daily food and drink specials. And with now winter sports going on as well, there is never a bad time to be at DJ's Dugout, taking your favorite sports with however many people you want to be with, because they can accommodate all size parties. It is an Omaha tradition to gather with family and friends and watch your teams at DJ's Dugout. Voted Omaha's #1 sports bar, DJ's Dugout, locally in Vietnam, veteran-owned. Dig in at the Dugout.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Remember, no matter how you listen, it's still AM radio. 1620 The Zone.
With over 45 years in business, Thrasher Foundation Repair makes stressful home repairs super easy with precise repair and genuine care. From basement waterproofing to foundation repair, concrete restoration, and crawl space repair, you can count on Thrasher to handle it with ease and expertise. Schedule a free estimate today at gothrasher.com.
Precise repair, genuine care, Thrasher.
Brent Rasmussen of Mortgage Specialists. Doesn't matter where you get your pre-approval. As a consumer, you have lots of choices when it comes to getting a mortgage pre-approval. You can go online or a mortgage professional like Mortgage Specialists. However, not every lender is the same. Online processing tools can pre-approve you in minutes, but it's more likely very inaccurate. We recommend that prospective buyers get pre-approved by a local lender. When you work with reputable local lenders, the pre-approval means what it means. You get a real evaluation of what you can borrow, and you and your real estate agent can have peace of mind through the entire process. Find out about pre-approvals and more when you subscribe to Mortgage Matters in Minutes on our YouTube channel. Just search Mortgage Specialists LLC. Click mtg-specialists.com. NMLS number 5918, Equal Housing Lender.
I can't wait for what's next, even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation. and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Pixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist-prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. hims.com/radio.
1620 The Zone at 1620thezone.com. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Going to be talking some college hoops. Ryan Miller, Creighton assistant basketball coach, going to be joining us here in just about 5 minutes. I wanted to get to an email real quick in the Equitable Bank inbox. This one was from someone who texted me an email. So, unfortunately, I do not have that gentleman's name. But he does say, as far as the quarterback situation going on, he says, and I got to open up text. If the Husker players know that Sims and Purdy are not going to play, they have no choice but to try and prop up Harvard, as he is all they've got. They have to try to put lipstick on that pig. They don't have another choice. Well, again, and Gary, I think that the one thing that I know you guys were talking about this on Saturday, I think it's been kind of the theme. It's not an enviable situation that Nebraska has at the quarterback position, but it is what they have. And so, yeah, I don't expect like players, especially defensive players, after, one stalled drive after another, all of a sudden is going to result into some type of split locker room. I don't see that being the DNA. I think these guys kind of understand it as well. But it's just, again, kind of goes back to everything with this game on Saturday. You are limited in what you can do. And it creates that margin for error with the other two phases that much more thin. I mean, that's all it comes down to it. It's not a great situation that Nebraska has a quarterback, but we've known that for weeks.
Yeah. That's why I know we did Big Red overreaction. Nebraska is the same team today that they were on Saturday, they were on Friday when they got on a plane.
Yep.
They got beat by a team that executed better. Well, they all live in the same neighborhood. They have comparable talent. That's what happens when you have an off day on the side of the ball, which you have put so much into, and that is defense. When for 30 minutes, they don't live up to the standard and you're chasing points.
Mm-hmm.
It happened. All right. You can't let it happen again against Maryland. All right. Ryan Miller coming up next. Creighton assistant basketball coach. Jay's open tomorrow night against Florida A&M. He speaks to us next.
Hey, over at Woodhouse Mazda, you can follow your path in the Mazda CX-30 over at Woodhouse Mazda. And this crossover, it comes with the available SkyActiv G 2.5 turbo engine, which delivers up to 250 horsepower. Perfect for winter, especially getting through all those fun road conditions. And you always get the peace of mind on any road conditions when it comes to the standard iActive all-wheel drive. I appreciated the overall comfort and just the handle on this vehicle. The smaller CUV, but it does have enough room to fit everything you're looking for, whether you have a decent-sized family or you're just bringing a lot of cargo for some of that winter travel. It's a good vehicle to get into. And right now, you can get out of the Woodhouse Mazda in 2 convenient locations. Get out there and shop during their Season of Inspiration event, which is going on right now. Starting MSRP $26,669. Experience a customer experience second to none. It's a team that understands how valuable your time is and offers a streamlined purchasing experience. Chat with a sales team member online, easily schedule a test drive, and check vehicle availability and much more. And even customize your deal conveniently online with a variety of financing options to choose from at WoodhouseMazda.com or WoodhousePlaceMazda.com. A drive worth experiencing.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a little bit of slowdown along Highway 370 at Golden Boulevard. And on Dodge, be prepared for a little bit of slowdown from 84 to 77. Then along L Street, there's going to be a very minor delay from 102nd all the way to 83rd. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Fernando's.
Like getting your Fernando's fix? How would you like getting your Fernando's fix and getting 15% off? That'd be pretty fantastic. Sign up for the Fernando's Rewards program through the Fernando's app in the Apple or Google store and get a 15% discount as a welcome gift.
Howdy, Greg Wagner joining you from the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. Time now for another Nebraska Outdoor Update. Attention migratory bird hunters, it's time to get HIP, your new Harvest Information Program number, that is. It's required by law and is done through the permit system on the Game and Parks website at outdoornebraska.gov. That's outdoornebraska.gov. I wish you a safe hunting season. Say it's the time of year to catch big fish in Nebraska. Zzz, bloop, and go visit a state parkland. This time of year, larger game fish are putting on the fat reserves for the upcoming cold weather season, and they're more apt to be caught. And Nebraska's 76 area state parklands, the grounds to those remain open for all kinds of outdoor recreation, including camping. So come see us. That'll wrap it up for now. Thank you for listening. I'm Greg Wagner with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission.
Attention sales professionals. NRG Media is looking for an accomplished business-to-business salesperson who wants to take their success and skills to a new level. Is this you? Our account executives work with local businesses to create marketing plans to help them get more customers. On air, digital, on-site, audio, video, it's all part of what you could sell. A sales career with NRG lets you make a real difference. Get more info and apply online at nrgmedia.com. NRG Media is an equal opportunity employer.
This hour is powered by Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair, Nebraska on 1620 The Zone. Let it fly. Your elevated sports bar experience. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, coming up tomorrow night, Creighton begins the season, a season that there is a lot of expectations, a lot of excitement. They open up against Florida A&M. Nice non-con schedule. Then, of course, the Big East is going to be a beast this year. We welcome an assistant coach, Ryan Miller, who full-time restaurateur, part-time assistant basketball coach. Good morning.
That's good morning, guys. That's not completely true. I'll have my brother run those things. I prefer coaching basketball.
Hey, so by the way, and it's doing well. I mean, you guys, I knew what the plan was going in when you guys introduced Let It Fly to Omaha. So kudos to your brother and everybody else that is involved. It has hit a home run, and I know that there will be future success as well.
Yeah, Mike's had a vision after his playing career. My brother Mike played 17 years in the NBA, had a vision. He trademarked the Let It Fly namesake when he was playing with the Miami Heat, and he wanted to bring some of an elevated sports bar experience to Omaha when his son came here. An opportunity came by with some great investors and some people supporters of our program, put together an awesome place where people can gather and watch sports and hang out. And the arena CHI is right there, so they come in before game, after game, and hang out and go watch the Creighton Blue Jays play basketball.
Hey, and then afterwards, just tell people you know Coach Miller, and you'll be good.
No, they'll charge you double.
Hey, you've been around this game for a long time. Now, before you got to Creighton, you've been around good teams, and you know what the expectations are and the drive is in the inner walls of the Creighton basketball facility. But if you have a top 3 guard in college basketball, a top 3 big in college basketball, a top 5 wing in college basketball, everybody wants a piece of the pie. What is it that this has led, and kind of watching a little bit on Friday night, but knowing the workings of you guys. With that said, Ryan, how is this team so unselfish?
Well, it starts with our head coach, obviously number one. The recruiting process to the people we bring in our program. He makes sure we make a point on bringing high character people that are willing to sacrifice and are unselfish for the greater good. Guys that will play for the front of their chest, not the back of their chest, knowing that if they play for the front of the chest, the back of the chest will rise and the honors will come like they're coming. And that's how it kind of happens. The culture is terrific. The culture was terrific before I got here 2.5 years ago. And it just keeps on building and building because of the kind of guys we have in the program. And that's how it's happening.
Coach, I do want to go back to Friday. And I understand the competition only gets bigger and badder, but you see something that maybe teams would try to do, and that is try to make it tougher for Kalkbrenner to get a lot of entry passes. And all of a sudden that's opened up. Trey Alexander's able to kind of do things a little bit more freely. When you kind of look at maybe that next level for Trey Alexander and kind of watching his game develop, is that something that kind of excites this offense of, in those prospects where there's so many things to try to account for that, you maybe see a Trey Alexander one night, then maybe you see a Baylor Shireman the other night, where there are going to be a lot of opportunities where guys are going to have that opportunity for a big night.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, like you said, we got 3 guys that are, really have been in the program that are predicted to be first, second team, all Big East type players. There's going to be different guys have different nights. I mean, teams are going to try to beat us with the physicality. Even if you look at Stephen Ashworth, he's coming on the Bob Cousy Award list. So he's going to be a big part of this too. Although he wasn't here last year. And then we got the role players that come in, that are going to fit a specific role. Mason, Trout, Farabello. It's a huge role, come off the bench, that senior leadership. But, there's going to be different guys that can get you every single night. There's no question about that. But teams are going to try to beat us with their physicality, athleticism, and we're going to have to, punch back a little bit this year. We're going to have a big bullseye on our chest, and teams are going to be coming after us. And the way to beat us is no secret, is get physical with us, try to out-athlete us. And we're going to have to be able to counter that as the season goes on.
And it kind of leads me to this question, Coach Miller. What is the biggest payoff to Kalk adding the bulk that he's added in the offseason?
Oh, he was obviously, a huge presence in the paint, particularly defensively and in ball screen coverage over the last couple of years, being Big East Defensive Player of the Year the past 2 seasons. But now he gives us a threat to throw it inside, a little pound in the post a little bit, get a bucket when, the night that the threes aren't falling and we need to get something inside. With him being about 270 pounds now, it lets him be a more of an offensive deep post catch threat offensively, where he hasn't been probably in his first couple of years in the league. And we'll utilize that more this year, getting the ball inside, especially when we go on scoring drops. We'll try to pound inside, and especially at the beginning of games, we'll try to get inside and set the stage for what's going on so we can get inside and then we can play inside out a little more.
Yeah, and getting back to his defense with Kalkbrenner, conference reigning defensive player of the year, and we all know that, but where do you think he's made the biggest strides? I mean, would it just be as simple as maybe awareness and, logging more minutes, and you can anticipate even when maybe the action's not coming right at him that he kind of anticipates a lot better? Or is there anything else that you would say he's made the biggest strides defensively?
You know what? He's always been why he's been so good is because he's always been a really good instinctual defender, which is very hard, especially the ball screen coverage. We play a lot of drop coverage, so you have to basically play 2 guys at one time. You have to play the guard and you have to play your guy at the same time. So he's had great instincts on that, and great instincts being able to come over to help timing with that, because there's timing episodes there. You can't go too early because in the drop-off passes or lob passes happen behind you. He's always had great instincts with that. But, just like anything else, I think confidence, playing at the standard he has for the past few years and growing, maturing, and getting in the weight room with Coach Jeremy Anderson and the coaching he has, and then going through the draft process. All that stuff leads to a confidence level that he has right now, and he's a very confident young man going into this year.
Hey, so this is an interesting interview. We've been talking now for 6 minutes, and it's primarily been focused on defense. And everybody thinks of Creighton as an offensive juggernaut. And with Mac's ideology, yes, and it seems like every guy, including yourself, can shoot threes if I'm going off of watching Friday night. But I want to stick with defense because I think, and you guys have gotten better over the last couple of years defensively. I think one of the subtle things is, how do you guard without fouling? You guys do a really good job of that. Where does that start, and how does that happen?
It's an everyday deal. We start practices, we end practices, making a point of emphasis. We'll go through drills where we're taking contacts, showing our hands, so we're not hand checking people. We'll work on verticality every day at the rim. So, like you saw 2 plays in our exhibition game. One was Ashworth and one with Trey, where the team was on a transition break, an opportunity transition break for them, and they go straight up in the air with their hands straight up in the air, go vertical. Both those guys made those 2 plays in that exhibition game with no fouls. We work on that every day. And then the walls up around the rim when teams are posting up, showing our hands, getting our elbows behind our ears, making sure that there's no angles. And it's just an everyday process that coach makes a point of emphasis with. And when you make a point of emphasis every single day, it carries over the games.
There's a couple of guys, and you mentioned Mason kind of filling into that starting role in that 4 position. Is that one that you kind of think will be a little bit more rotational throughout the season? Maybe even seeing a guy like Isaac Trout and some other guys, or do you feel like this is, the starting 5, what you guys put out there is going to be probably, barring anything, health-wise, is probably going to be what it is, but that just kind of adds to the depth that you guys have coming off the bench, especially the 4 spot?
Yeah, I mean, our starting 5 is our starting 5, but guys on the bench are going to be asked for a lot. I mean, I think Trout, that's going to be a rotational spot with Mason. Farabello is going to be a huge key. He's coming into the year with a more confidence in his shooting. Get back to his form he had in the Big 12 when he shot a career 40% from 3 at TCU. There'll be a lot of asks. Fred King's going to have to, log some minutes, big minutes as a backup 5-man for Kelkbrenner. So it's going to be, there's going to be if you're going to win the way we want to win the Big East regular season, to have a chance to win a national championship, you're going to have to have a lot of people contribute. The Big 3 can't get it done their own, and you got Stephen Ashworth in there, the Big 4 can't get it done their own. So people are going to have to step up, and we'll see who those people are throughout the course of the year. You
just added Stephen to the Big 4.
Yeah, the Big 4.
And
he's going to log a lot of minutes at point guard. I mean, there's no question. I mean, you're going to have Ashworth, Alexander, Baylor, and Kelkbrenner log a lot of minutes. So those guys are going to be staple minute guys. Probably high 20s, 30-minute guys. So those 4 guys for sure are going to be playing the most minutes.
So it was pretty easy to see, especially Friday night, the chemistry between the Big 3 and then how Ashworth fits into this program. Where, Ryan, do you think he'll make his biggest impact throughout the course of an entire season that begins tomorrow night, and hopefully you're still playing in April? Where do you think will be the area where you'll look back and go, that's why we got Stephen Ashworth?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, he's mature beyond his years, number 1. He's a very mature young man. Leadership skills are unbelievable. Think Ryan Hawkins type leadership skills, talking, communicating. He has a way to communicate with guys and peers on his team that's criticizing, but it doesn't feel like criticism, right, for the kids. So he has a way to articulate that to the younger players and how to help their growth as players, and just that leadership, and obviously shot making, shot 40+% at a really good Utah State team, and he played against really good competition. I mean, if you look at his analytics are off the charts from what he did, and it was not just against bad competition; it was against A and B type tier teams. So the San Diego States of the world, those type of teams, he had very good games against. So, but the leadership skills are the most important thing. He's going to deliver this team. Obviously, he's going to make a lot of shots. Those leadership skills are what's going to drive this team.
Coach, you mentioned Freddie King, and we saw him in a starting role when Kalkbrenner was out for a little bit last year and logging some important minutes afterwards. what kind of jump has he made in your opinion, just from last year, the experience he took into where he is this year in an important role?
Yeah, he's just gotten a lot bigger. He's more mature too, as both as a player and as a kid. Comes to work every day, puts his hard hat on. It's a very tough role he's going to be in, because his minutes are going to be up and down, and Kuckbrenner doesn't foul a lot. So it's probably a 10 to 12 minute role, but it's a huge 10 to 12 minute role that he's going to have to perform on. We would love to have him as a 10 to 12 minute role to get Kuckbrenner's minutes down a little bit, 28 to 30. But those are huge minutes. I mean, the margins are so small. As you see in Elite Eight game, we lose by 1 point. The margins are so small. So anybody that gets in the game and contributes, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's 20 minutes, they have to make plays. They're going to have to protect the rim. They're going to have to not foul. They're going to have to do the things that we do. And it's going to be a big year for him as far as his development and exactly where this team goes, how far this team goes.
Hey, the next time you go to Bahamas to recruit a future Jay, can I go? That sounds like a heck of a trip. When you went down to recruit Fred, that sounded like a wild trip.
Yeah, and then Bahamas are nice. Where we went, it's like a 6-mile island that we landed on a gravel runway. So I don't know if you want to take that trip. the one we took when we played in Atlanta. You want to do that one? You want to do that one?
All right, hold on. So let's go back to when you're recruiting Fred. So you land on a gravel runway. You're thinking what as you go to find this guy who everybody's talking about on the island?
Well, first I saw him in outside Mexico City at the NBA Academy Latin America. It was the first time I saw him in a tournament they were running there. Alan Huss and I, and his parents. NBA Academy found him in Enns Grove Cay, Bahamas, small little island, 6 mile, and they brought him to NBA Latin America where he was developed. So Alan and myself went to go see his dad and his mom, and they live on a 6 mile island in Enns Grove Cay. It's about a 45-minute flight. You have to fly into Nassau, and then you get on this little puddle jumper, and you come into this island that's basically as long as 6 mile. It's one road and 6 miles long, and the runway is gravel, and there's like a 6-passenger crop duster plane that you have to get in there. So it was kind of interesting going down to see his parents, but it was well worth the trip, obviously, because Fred's an integral part of this team.
Hey, Coach, I just real quickly on the Big East and what it looks like this year in just a loaded conference, and you've been a part of that. I mean, what people would say arguably the Big 12 would be the elite college basketball conference. And I know the Big 12 looks a lot different now than it did when you were over at TCU. But when you do look at just the overall style of play and kind of what you experience night in and night out with TCU compared to what you've now seen in a couple of years with Creighton in the Big East, how would you compare the two?
I mean, both leagues are probably the last decade been the best two leagues in college basketball. Both a little different. I mean, the Big 12 is probably bigger, more athletic. They pride themselves with physicality, play, athleticism. The Big East, more of a skilled league, more of a guard-oriented league, I'd say. Traditionally, I guess we got some of the best bigs in the country now, but yeah, that's probably the main difference: athleticism, size, where we're speed, skill, where the two leagues kind of differ. But as far as night in, night out competition, it's the same, right? Like one night you're playing Kansas, the next night you're playing Texas, the next night you're playing West Virginia. When your worst teams, when I was coaching the league, the worst teams like West Virginia, coached by Bobby Huggins. I mean, that tells you what kind of league it is, right? Yeah. And that's where the Big East is kind of trending that way now with adding Rick Pitino, and you got Sean Miller now in this league. I mean, it's a heck of a coached league. The Big East has won the national championship, I think 3 or 4 the last 7-8 years. So the two leagues are phenomenal leagues, and they're the best leagues because of who you have to play night in, night out. Like UConn one night for us, Seton Hall the next, St. John's the next, Xavier the next. I mean, you just go through the list. There's no nights off, really. So you have to have a mature group. You have to have a kid that you have a team that has to be ready, and both leagues have to be ready every night. And you have quick turnarounds. You play a game Saturday, and then you play a game Tuesday, and you have to be able to. If you get beat by on the road to UConn on a Saturday, you got to be able to turn it around Tuesday and figure out how to beat St. John's or whoever it may be, right? Yeah. So it's you have to put games away. You can't let one loss turn to 2 and 3. You have to learn from your losses, and you have to move on fast. And that's the case in both leagues.
Hey, we appreciate your time. Good luck on the upcoming season. You know what's ahead of everybody, but we always appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on, and look forward to the season.
That's Coach Ryan Miller, assistant coach under Mac. Tomorrow night, Creighton takes on Florida A&M. Creighton will not win the regular season in the Big East, but they will win the conference tournament for the first time. They will be a number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. Nebraska will finish 8th in the Big Ten, be on the cusp of the NIT. Omaha will be a 4 seed going to Sioux Falls.
So they will wear white.
They will wear white.
We get a first glimpse of red team and black team tonight, too. The Nebraska, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. A little bit of it is Nebraska. Just don't play it on Wednesday.
Being an older team.
Yeah.
Also, it's a little bit of the Big Ten. If
Yeah.
this is the year that you're going to move up in the Big Ten, this is the ideal year. The Michigans, the Iowas that have been, up in the top 6, they're going to drift closer to you.
Omaha's interesting, too, and obviously that gets going tonight. Just always seeing South Dakota State with a stranglehold of that conference. But as far as when I remember doing PA announcing for them, too, and you talked about Oral Roberts, who they're now just got a built for success going forward, even without Asmus. And, that's a program that wasn't always the traditional power. But, as far as, the teams like South Dakota were always a pretty strong team if it wasn't South Dakota State. Omaha kind of putting themselves in the mix. It almost felt like every other year, every couple of years. I just like the new additions like the St. Thomas with the type of money that they have in their program as well, and the type of athletes that they get as well, making that jump to D1 is probably as good as you can expect for some of their sports programs. I'm kind of curious to see what's sort of behind Omaha. You would know this a lot better than me, but I mean, like a St. Thomas, like even a North Dakota, and what some of those schools look like. Would you? Maybe this is the best question just to straight up ask you, would you consider the Summit League deep this year, or is it a little more just top heavy?
I would consider the Summit League down this year.
Okay. And so you got to be an opportunist. I would love to see Omaha in that situation again, where they put themselves in a position. And again, I'm not unrealistic when it comes to, the support that, people driving up to Sioux Falls to watch them in the tournament. But I just hope that they can kind of put together the type of season that does create that type of buzz, where you get a little bit more involvement with the fans and the community. I want so badly for them to have that moment, for them to have that, finally get that moment on that final Tuesday and be able to cut down some nets.
All right, we come back. We'll check out on some emails and some tweets about our Husker football discussion. Matt Rule talks to the media later today. 11 a.m. only on Peacock for Nebraska and Maryland coming up on Saturday. Maryland is a favorite, a slight 3-point favorite. Last check, totals at 42.5. Maryland has lost 4 in a row. They were competitive until it got away from them in the fourth quarter. They also racked up minus 49 yards rushing against Penn State.
That's less than
Turned the
0.
ball over 4 times, got sacked 6 times. This sets up as an opportunity for the defense to do what the defense has been doing.
FAFO.
All right, defensive score. Come on, it's got to happen.
All right, 8:26. We're back with more Mornings with Sharp and Handley after this.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Caller 4 right now, 402-951-1620. Qualifies for 1620 The Zone's 4-quarter pick'em. It's your chance to pick 4 football games correctly against the spread to win $1,620. Call 402-951-1620. Call now to qualify with 1620 The Zone. Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
This team is giving everything they've got. They're going out there against some longer odds, and they're finding a way. There's a grit that has been lacking in this program for a long time. This team's got it.
I think sometimes, you want the end result immediately. this is nowhere near the end result.
Oh, no.
And yet they're still finding success.
Unsportsmanlike conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from Canoyer Garden Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
A cool start Monday morning, though, warming up nicely to start the week. We'll see partly sunny skies with a light northwest breeze, highs in the upper 60s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain, time-saving traffic center. We have a couple of accidents to report, starting with one at 13th and Cummings, so please be cautious if you're in that area. Then there's also an accident that has the center lane blocked westbound along I-80 at 60th Street, and that's going to be backed up all the way to I-480, and you can expect delays of up to 5 minutes in that area. Then along Industrial Road, be prepared for a significant slowdown from 149th to 138th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by the Nebraska Lottery.
The Nebraska Lottery hopes you have yourself a classic little Christmas by entering non-winning holiday classic scratch tickets for a chance to win $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000. Top prize odds vary by game. Promotion ends January 3rd, 2024.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call on the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
Host is roasting every morning. Host is roasting every day.
Since 1972, family-owned and locally roasted Host Coffee Service has been roasting the finest coffee for businesses and restaurants. If you're ready to change to a better coffee provider, it's time for Host Coffee.
Omaha's best coffee since 1972. Host Coffee is always roasting something good for you.
Creighton Sports Update. Hey, Blue Jay fans, it's volleyball and soccer season here at Creighton. So get your tickets and come out and support your Blue Jays. For tickets, go to Ticketmaster.com, gocreighton.com/tickets, or visit the office located at the Ryan Athletic Center. And that's your Creighton Sports Update.
1620 The Zone proudly supports Creighton Athletics.
Over the past few years, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected how we live our daily lives.
Today, 1 in 5 Americans experience emotional and mental health challenges, but many of us do not understand what we are facing or how to ask for help.
At the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, we work every day to eliminate stigma, combat mental illness and substance use disorders, and advance mental health.
If you or someone you love needs help, you are not alone. Please visit mentallyhealthynation.org to learn more.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees, The Source, by your mom's house.
Make the right call, fans. The Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Rooferees. 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, Maryland week. That long storied history of Nebraska and Maryland. There'll be a rivalry when they join the Big Ten. Just has not worked out.
No.
You can hear Keith Jackson's voice right now.
I mean, the Nebraska-Oklahoma type games, they have to die so that we could get Nebraska-Maryland. It's just like Bedlam had to die so that we could get more Washington and Purdue games.
Baby Tua.
So Mike Loxley is the head coach at Maryland, can recruit. They appear to be a little undisciplined, at times poorly coached. He is 0-5 on the road against Big Ten West teams. He's 2-10 overall against Big Ten West teams. Do what you will with that. Maryland is a favorite coming into Memorial Stadium. The game at 11 a.m.
Could that be one of my games this week? I can't believe I usually stay away from most Nebraska games, but
No, yeah, I'm not touching it. 2.5. See if that thing moves at all, but they could open at 3. Now 2.5. But the Maryland, and I was watching a lot of that Maryland game against Northwestern 2 weeks ago, and again, I give Northwestern credit.
You're a hardy soul.
It was definitely a sicko game. It was because your KU Oklahoma game was in a weather delay, so I feasted my eyes on that one, that beauty. But yeah, just a lot of the dinking and dunking that comes with the Maryland offense, and you're going to see that a lot. And they're going to try to utilize short routes, getting guys to move up space. They'll take a couple of hits, a couple of shots there. But I was more than anything impressed with Northwestern, just being very disciplined, where basically when you were getting the ball off, Talia Tagovailoa was getting the ball off, whether it was 5 yards, 8 yards. I mean, Northwestern had somebody right there. I mean, it was about as disciplined as you could be in that type of attack. But I also think that when people think of Maryland's offense and having Talia Tagovailoa, Michael Loxley being an offensive-minded guy, that, they're going to take a lot of home run shots, but it's not really the case, which and this is very early in getting ready for this game on Saturday. I tend to think that works to Nebraska's strengths as far as what they want to do defensively. But again, I'm not worried about the defense. I haven't been for now the last 2 months. It's what you can get out of the offense. What, if anything, you can get out of the offense, and what you can try to minimize when it comes to the damage with the offense. It's all of these games are going to be going
every week.
forward.
Every week is week to week.
Look
at Illinois beat Minnesota.
Yeah,
Bert never loses to Minnesota.
Yeah, that's
when you play a team that kind of your program or your philosophy is shadowed after, sometimes you don't know how to adjust. I thought in that game, PJ Fleck was too safe early, too late to be aggressive. And Illinois brought a guy off the bench, and on a huge down, they complete a pass and they win that game. That was monstrous for Illinois. But look at Illinois. We saw at the beginning of October on that Friday night. We're like,
yeah. Oh, it looked awful.
But they have gone on the road and they've won at Maryland and they've won at Minnesota. I mean, it truly is in the Big Ten West. It is week to week.
And you're not out of any game.
And that's why I like saying this is the week we go 1-0 is the right play here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Emails into the Equitable Bank inbox. This is from John about special teams. Let me be the first to say it. Apparently, Santino Panico had this whole punt return thing figured out 20 years ago, and we're not smart enough to see his brilliance. That is somebody, I don't care if Nebraska wins a national championship, that is someone who will always be brought up around here.
Yeah. It's very, very true. And yeah, just
does roll off the tongue
for nothing more than just catching punts, but not doing anything with them. I mean, isn't that all we've really seen since 2014? I mean, a guy that I think we hold in high regard as a wide receiver for Nebraska, and Jordan Westerkamp. Also, similar situations. That's what we've seen. We have not seen any real pulse of a return game since 2014 in Des Moines personnel.
Bob writes in, hello, Bob. Are you guys making a big board for portal and high school quarterbacks? And I get Diego Pavia from New Mexico State on there. Winner, gamer, leader, makes winning plays constantly.
Great name.
Right.
Another one. I'm in just on that.
Diego Pavia.
The guy is a perfect bridge quarterback to win games and get Nebraska moved up the ladder.
Well, coached by Jerry Kills.
We'll put him on the list.
On the board.
We'll put him up there right.
Put him on the board.
Get
Yes.
Josh's wheel back out. It's still around somewhere.
Put him with Zane Flores, Lincoln Kleinholz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Malik Murphy.
From Texas. Yeah.
A couple of quarterbacks from Georgia. We'll have a quarterback board. think you need two. Younger guy and an older guy.
Trying to see if there would be, and obviously these names will probably show themselves at some point towards December, but the Cam Ward type player, that you FCS stud guy that's ready to kind of make that jump, the natural progression of, okay, he's done what he needs to do at the FCS level now. Because that was another guy that was during the Casey Thompson and Chubba Purdy group that was all on the board there. Cameron Ward was another one of those guys that a lot of people kind of circled of the numbers that he was putting up FCS wise, what he could do at the Power 5 level, and he's held his own. There's just a lot of different options that, again, trying to get the best feel for what this offense wants to be and who you would identify in the transfer portal and how they'll go about doing it, because it's, again, you cannot put yourself in this situation again next year. This has to be a one-off as far as quarterback play and the limitations that you truly have with your offense when it does come to quarterback play. And I just, again, don't want to put that all on Heiner Carberg. Jeff Sims was a part of that to start off with too. And the things around them with the injuries, everything, it's been kind of the perfect storm. But I go back to something that you brought up maybe about a month ago when we were thinking about the young wide receivers and developing, and how would we really see those gains and what those guys could project to be. And regardless of what happens this year, it's almost impossible to do that because of the quarterback play. You just don't know what you have out of those guys and what they can do really in game type situations until you have someone that is going to be on time, someone that's going to be able to help those guys progress with what is a very important freshman development year when you have a quarterback that is able to deliver the football early and often and consistently too. And they don't have that. So it's kind of where you almost stop about, not the coaches obviously, but as fans, you stop trying to project into the future of, well, this guy doesn't look as good as I thought he would as a wide receiver, or this guy, boy, I thought he'd be a lot better and he's not as big of a playmaker. Again, it comes back down to that type of relationship with a quarterback and the wide receiver, which you just don't have right now.
So the portal opens up December 4th. The thing to keep in mind, because, we'll have a big board. Zane Flores will be a popular name this week, guaranteed. He'll get a lot of run this week. So we'll put him on the board. You have to have reciprocal love. Like, it's like going to the grocery store. Like, let's say you go to the grocery store and you want a box of Rice Krispies. You can just reach and grab that box of Rice Krispies and put it in the cart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Rice Krispie on the shelf, it has no say. It's going in your cart. Like in Portal, you could go into the Portal grocery store and just start shopping, but that doesn't mean that when you reach for that box of Rice Krispies that it's coming in your cart. It can refuse.
Snap, crackle, and pop have to approve.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So just, we'll play that because that's what we'll do when it gets here in the 4th of December.
But it's as easy as just paying the money, Gary. Come on. You just pay them the money.
Once they get the two quarterbacks, we can then discuss how they compare to cereal.
The thing to keep in mind about the portal quarterback. So I'm giving Rule and Satterfield the mulligan. Okay. Got to get it fixed. I mean, if you want to get over the hump in 2024 with a more difficult schedule where it's not going to lay out like it has now, you got to get that quarterback position fixed. So I'll give you a mulligan on this one. You can't miss on the next one. But he's big on young and developing. So when I say we need two and I say young and old, does he say, no, we need two young guys? Because he is big on development. But the quarterback position is not the only position that they've got to go shopping in the offseason. They don't need to go heavy in the portal, but they have
to address needs.
They probably, when they go shopping in the portal this year, everybody they grab out of there, and it might be just a max of 4 to 5, have to be starters against UTEP.
Mm-hmm.
They're not fillers because I think they have, I'm not going to say fillers on the current roster, but they don't have as many holes. So your portal guys that you add for 24, they've got to be starting against UTEP or at least maybe sharing a starting spot. If not, why are they here?
Yeah. Yeah, with the development too. And I would say offensively, I mean, with running back would probably be an area that you would look at as well.
Running back, wide receiver, offensive line, quarterback.
Yep. And I just think that if you're going to go about it the way of the development too, I mean, it kind of goes back on, okay, how much development did you think you were going to get out of a Jeff Sims though too? Because I think you're right. I think
he's the older guy. He's the ready-made.
Right.
That's the older guy in a portal.
I think to the core of what Matt Rule wants to do, yeah, you want to get the younger, maybe year or two guy of a college quarterback that's probably, again, has redshirted, maybe has started a few games, but then he's got 3 years of eligibility maybe left. That would be the ideal situation. Like the Jeff Sims one obviously wasn't that guy, but could you possibly do, again, going back to that question we had earlier, would you maybe go back to sort of a Jeff Sims profile as far as how many, years he's actually been active, not talking about the profile itself, but just how much eligibility he's used up compared to, again, like what you saw when they brought in Chubba Purdy, who essentially you were giving him a chance to start over and have at least 3 years in front of him, if not more. I think that route would probably make the most sense. And it has to be significant from a standpoint of fit. And that's the other thing is wanting to get a better idea of what this offense is going to be. And that's going to tell you everything you need to know about who they identify.
See, I think it's wise to, if you're going to grab guys out of the portal, take a good hard look at who coached them this past season. Not the head coach, but the quarterback coach.
That's a good point.
I think Satterfield's into the world of mechanics and we're going to change a guy. I honestly, I don't think Harburg's throwing motion will change at all the rest of his career in college. But I think Satterfield needs a ready-made guy that they can just plug and play. Yeah. Not a guy that we got to coach up and we got to teach vision.
Kind of like a Spencer Rattler.
We got to teach awareness. Yes. So
like signing a vet in the NFL.
Because I don't think Satterfield's strength is coaching quarterbacks. Remember, he's going to be the tight end coach here if Jake Peetz was the quarterback coach. So you pay attention to who was their particular quarterback coach this past season.
That's fair.
Were their mechanics taken care of? Somebody asked on Twitter, does Harburg have a quarterback tutor? Yes, he does. I can't tell you who it is, but I remember seeing videos that he put out. He was working with somebody in the offseason. Satterfield's probably more of a ready-made guy instead of a development guy.
So he's going to be tasked with trying to put the quarterback in the best position possibly with that offense as opposed to, okay, let's break down some mechanics. Let's be able to fine-tune those things. As an OC, as a quarterback coach, is more of, all right, this is what I have. Now we're gonna put you in the position that is going to not only help you, but more importantly, help this offense.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think like you can look at that key example when he was at South Carolina, Spencer Rattler. That's, Spencer Rattler wasn't a guy that was going to have a lot of mechanical, upgrades or developments. Like he'd already come in, he'd started a big time football program, gave you some good stuff. Fell back a little bit because you had a pretty damn good quarterback in Caleb Williams. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of those guys exist, but I would assume that would be the sort of a little bit more of the profile that they're looking for.
Josh asked on Twitter, does Satterfield coach tight ends next year? Hire a quarterback coach?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've got Martin, who I think is obviously very well respected within that group too. But remember how he ended up taking over full time too when Bob Wager gets in a little bit of trouble. So
ask yourself this question. Who's the best offensive coach Nebraska has right now?
Didn't someone on the show the other day say Tony White?
Yeah. Just so true.
It is.
I heard that. That's genius. I might go with that.
Who's the best offensive coach Nebraska has right now?
I mean, I like EJ Barthel a lot, but we've had that conversation about running backs and what they're doing with the running backs. And I don't know how much of that is Marcus Satterfield being able to sort of coordinate that with EJ Barthel. I still like EJ Barthel. I think what we've seen from Emmett Johnson, I'd like to think is maybe a little bit of EJ Barthel and being able to help develop Emmett Johnson, where, by all accounts, the previous year, that guy was probably on his way out. It's tough to say what type of development we saw with Gabe Ervin because we didn't see enough of him before he got injured. And, Anthony Grant, I don't know what's going on there. So I still like EJ Barthel a lot, but yeah, it's a tough question.
High upside. It was like Garrett's got upside too.
McGuire's that is
he didn't have much to work with.
Yeah, that to me is almost off the books, off the table as far as giving him a definitive grade
of quarterback. Yeah.
I don't know how you could definitively. What we'll know about Garrett McGuire is when maybe they're in a little bit better spot here in a year or two of what he was able to take from this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because being a young wide receivers coach and having that happen right out of the gate, I think that could be a defining moment for him. I know that's what Matt Rule hopes for Garrett McGuire. That could be a defining moment for him. But as far as currently who the best one is, I guess I would lean towards EJ Barthel. I guess would be my vote.
I mean, if they score a defensive touchdown, I'm going to go with that lady and go with Tony White. Because that's the rebuttal is that, well, they haven't scored a touchdown yet. So you can't completely say that.
It's not easy. The fact that you have to really rack your brain on this one is.
Their group is limited at wide receiver. Harburg throws a ball that can be difficult to catch because it rises.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not used to that. Mm-hmm. You could also make a case where everybody except one guy on the offense, you get a pass this year. Because what your position group looks like right now is vastly different from what you began in the spring with, except for offensive line.
Yeah.
Even though you've lost a couple of starters, you had them for a lot longer period.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Tight end's got to get better. Tell you, he's a key thing. He's got to be better. He's got to be one of the best players on the field every single Saturday, and that's Fedoni.
Yep. Especially given the state of the wide receiving group, too. I mean, you've got to be a playmaker. And look, there have been times where he's been sort of laid out to dry. But as far as even just like on just simple blocking assignments, too, being on the edge and trying to get a kick out, there have been catches that I think throughout this season, even though they've been a little bit high, it's still within the catch radius. That's kind of what you expect out of him, is to make those plays. There's just look, there's a lot of people that you can look at and say, all right, well, I mean, and you brought up Alex Bullock, like that one, the interception that was thrown, Alex Bullock is completely wide open, but he leads him over towards the deep middle. That's picked off. Okay. That to me is Heinrich Harburg where he threw that. But then you have the one, it would have been a first down and would have been over 10 yards, if I remember correctly, about a 15-yard gain. I mean, that's right there for Alex Bullock.
So the one where it basically is an arm punt, still a terrible throw. Was that scheme? They schemed up that route, or Bullock was wide open because the Michigan State quarterback or the cornerback?
Yeah, the defender fell. I think it's because the defender fell.
Yeah, it wasn't because of the scheme, but still, it was a poor throw.
Yeah.
And then when you have opportunities to catch the football, you didn't catch the football. Again, you can't go on the road in the Big Ten West or the Big Ten period. And Alex Bullock is your number one target guy.
Yep.
He's part of your offense, but he can't be your number one target guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the tight end's got to get better. I expect Fedoni to be good every week and on a path to, real deal, because he's shown flashes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hit or miss right now. I mean, there's plays where he's up the seam, touchdown, boom. That looks good.
Yep.
There's the times you got to block. Got to be an inline blocker. Fan on a block, beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Inconsistency has plagued the tight end room all season long. When I thought they would be, especially in this game, more of a thought of short passes, you'd be able to take advantage of them. They just weren't. I don't know. It's an interesting question because there are some here. I mean, Garrett McGuire's getting a lot of love. Somebody even said Dylan Raiola.
Donovan.
Huh?
Donovan Raiola.
Yeah, what'd I say?
Don't.
Donovan Raiola.
Freudian slip. Going back to our earlier discussion.
Donovan Raiola, I think it's easy to look at Donovan Raiola and be critical. But I know people want to, and we had a caller earlier, just absolutely jump on the offensive line play.
They still lead the Big Ten in rushing.
And that's the thing, though. When you look at the numbers, when you look at what they're doing running the football, and like Matt Rule will go to bat for them, and I get that. He should. But there are numbers there. And when you lose two guys for the season, but, even last week, I think last week was actually a kind of a check in the win column for Donovan Raiola as far as that offensive line for how much they had to kind of piece that together in a week's time. They weren't a problem. In fact, I think they did just fine in that game last week. So there are moments where I think maybe Donovan Raiola gets criticized too much, but I don't think you can overly praise him either. But it's probably somewhere in the middle because, again, with what they're doing offensively too, is it more of what you're not setting the tone up at the line of scrimmage, or, is it because of what you don't have in the skill position, what you don't have a quarterback? I can say this, there hasn't been that steady progress week in and week out that you always would hope, but I think there have been some good Saturdays from that offensive line that people probably don't acknowledge as much.
Here's a quick Pete tweet before we go into the break. He tweets out, don't expect any action by the Big Ten in the Michigan sign-stealing case for at least the next 48 hours, as the league's sportsmanship rules allow for a reasonable chance to respond to an institution or individual. Sources have told ESPN that there'll be a legal battle if there's punitive suspension by the Big Ten to Jim Harbaugh.
Right, now we're going to get the legal Eagles involved too. All I know is when you hear the president of Michigan on Friday before the game sort of something, and so this is sort of the last ditch effort of like the president saying, "Hey, coach, I got you. I'm going to do my part." I think they feel like the Big Ten is ready to make some type of impact on the season right now, and I think that was a last ditch effort. So that's interesting that now you're kind of getting into a challenge. Go ahead and do it, but we will have legal ramifications against you on this. This is just, at the end of the day, I still don't think anything comes of it this season. I think there's a lot of interesting developments, especially the Big Ten, trying to make it sound like they are listening to the athletic directors, trying to make it sound like they are listening to the coaches, and they acknowledge that this is unprecedented. But I think when push comes to shove, they're still going to allow the NCAA to conclude their investigation before they really want to jump on anything. That's just what my opinion is.
All right. Jacob Bigelow coming up in the next hour. Arnie Amy Just from the Lincoln Journal-Star will join us on a Monday. Maryland week on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. The best way to catch all the action is on 1620 The Zone. And no line for the bathroom.
Hi, this is Kathy Canoyer. 'Tis the season at Glasshouse Market within Canoyer Garden Center. We'd like to be a part of your family's holiday tradition. Whether you're looking for a gift for that special someone or a wreath for your front door, we'd like to invite you to come shop our stunning holiday market full of Christmas decor, novelty items, and fresh greens. Shop Glasshouse Market, located within Canoyer Garden Center on 66th Street between Cornhusker and Highway 370 in Papillion. Open daily 10 to 6.
At Canoyer Garden Center, everybody's got a green thumb.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k, and a $2,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
This is where it happens. Long hikes with friends, kayaking adventures with family, more horseback riding, zipline gliding, rock face climbing, hammock camping fun than you could ever imagine. And it's all outdoors, amongst the trees and across the prairie, here beneath Nebraska skies. Plan an outing today at yournebraskaadventure.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Over the past few years, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected how we live our daily lives.
Today, 1 in 5 Americans experience emotional and mental health challenges, but many of us do not understand what we are facing or how to ask for help.
At the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, we work every day to eliminate stigma, combat mental illness and substance use disorders, and advance mental health.
If you or someone you love needs help, you are not alone. Please visit mentallyhealthynation.org to learn more.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Women, were you exposed to toxic substances in the military? Then take note of the PACT Act, which expands benefits and care for all veterans once exposed to environmental hazards. For women veterans, such exposure can lead to reproductive cancers like ovarian, cervical, uterine, breast, and others. Learn more at va.gov/PACT.
Our Cox mobile plans are like a band. The more people you add, the better it sounds. So, add more lines to save more. Pay as low as $30 per line when you add 4 or more gig unlimited lines. It's easy. I like the sound of that. Visit cox.com/mobile. 4 lines required for $30 per line. Price max of 5 lines. Prices exclude taxes, device activation, and other fees and charges, which are subject to change. Cox postpaid internet required. Other restrictions apply.
1620 The Zone at 1620thezone.com. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
I was a big fan who won C1 volleyball over the weekend, so that we could say Minden Whippets.
The Whippets.
They beat Kearney Catholic. Scott won their 9th in a row. Lincoln Lutheran, which is a juggernaut, their 4th in the last 5 years.
I didn't know they were called the Whippets.
Yep, the Minden
Yeah,
Whippets.
the Minden Whippets.
Anytime the Minden does well, it should be brought to our attention, so we could say Minden Whippets. My 2 favorite things this weekend: Minden Whippets and Dean Blandino. A guy who
they should have Devo, by the way, playing every victory. The Whippet good.
A guy I've gotten to know fairly well over the last couple of years. Decided yesterday was the day for him to announce that he is retiring. Fred Petito. You cannot tell the story of high school football in the state of Nebraska without the Fred Petitos and Tom Jaworskis, Jeff Bellers, Doug Goltz's, Chuck Mazurski's, those kind of coaches. And I know I'm leaving out some, but Fred steps away after 41 years. An incredible run at Millard North. The beginning of the 2000s, for the next decade, they were the program, absolutely dominant. The landscape in high school athletics in this town has shifted, and it has hurt Millard North, and so they have not been as successful as they've been in the past. And this year, they were able to get into the playoffs. They had a difficult schedule once again, 2 straight years, where they struggled at the beginning but found their footing, and so they made it into the postseason. But Fred decided yesterday, well, probably just didn't wake up and go, yeah, I think I'm going to retire. He let his team know. Former players were alerted, and now somebody new will be on the sidelines at Millard North, which will be very, very odd. You know, Fred, I was always told Fred was not the greatest with the media, and I was like, I don't care. I want to get to know this guy. And our first couple of years, when we would talk during the week or on the field before games, I was like, whoa, this guy isn't going to give me the time of day.
Yeah.
But the Fred Petito I've gotten to know over the last couple of years, I really, really like. Very engaging. He's funny. I mean, it's a great story of how he ended up at Millard North and how he stayed for 4 decades.
We had him on earlier this season. I thought he was great.
Oh, he's fantastic, you know. But now it leads to, they ran a particular offense. I think adjusting to the current day and age of how high school football works, the year-round workouts, the kind of offense. Is your school closed, not closed? Can you recruit? All of those things, I don't think he really wanted to engage in. But he leaves a great junior class. I think Millard North, that is a really good job. I think with the infrastructure they have, they will find somebody that will be really good because it's a good job. You're inheriting a junior class that's got 2 Power 5 guys in it, and it's not like they were tied into that offense where, oh boy, it's going to take a couple years to get guys away from running that offense. They got a team that can adjust. So good luck to Coach Petito. He's a good dude, man. People will miss him in the the cutoff sleeves. Him running 6 miles a day.
Yeah,
guy wanted to be a Chicago cop. He's a White Sox fan, so that's already a strike against him. But he wanted to be a Chicago cop, and he ended up being the football coach in this state for 4 decades. Hell of a run with an enormous amount of great Millard North teams and even better players who some have worked for him, and a lot of them are still close to the program.
Yeah, in almost my entire life, I've only known one coach at Millard North, and the other 3 years I wasn't paying attention to high school football then, so I'll give it a pass. But
that you know of.
Fred was one of those guys that you knew of. It was almost like, and when you'd play against him, it was almost kind of like the stigma of, the wingbone offense. You had friends growing up. I was at Millard South and Millard West, and so I knew a lot of those guys, and you knew of Fred Petito, but it wasn't until after high school that I actually got a chance to get to know him. And between he and Mark Chavez, two guys that were, what I really liked about them is I always thought it was just a football factory, and that if you were a coach for any other sport, there was going to be some resistance there when you had players that played football that you wanted them to, be on the baseball team, or you wanted them to, go out for basketball. And for a guy that, and for, again, a reputation that was just a football factory and it was all about the weights, and you will do that first and foremost. I don't care what you have going on. The amount of support that those two individuals, but especially Fred Petito, showed all of the programs, and wanting his guys to be competing in different sports was sort of an eye opener. But when he was part of the coaching staff for Millard North baseball, and that's when you almost felt like you were kind of in Fred's circle, and he shared an office. He was always in the weight room, but
you've been in his office.
Oh yeah,
he's got a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah,
I don't call him a hoarder.
All the pictures of all the players. Like, I mean, he's a guy that is extremely proud of the players that have.
Tells a story.
Well, absolutely it has, but have come before many of us, and that, continue to play and go on to great things. But he's not somebody that is going to give you a lot of words. He is a less is more guy. I think that's how you know him. And I thought just yesterday when he said he was getting a lot of texts and messages from a lot of former players, and he just wanted to keep it at that, how that was special, but just wanted to keep it at that. That was probably, for a guy who doesn't show a lot of emotion, it was probably very emotional for him. I just know for the one man that always does kind of come across as sort of a tough guy and maybe not the easiest guy to get a quote out of every now and then, if you just spend more than 5 minutes with him, you're going to see a different side of him. And you're also going to be someone that he recognizes for decades to come.
Yeah, he's a good man. He
really good is. Man. I can't say enough good things about Fred Petito and what he meant for not only the game of high school football, but just high school athletics too.
It'd be weird not to see Coach Petito on the sidelines for Millard North, but that's a good job. That will attract some really good candidates. You're inheriting a good group of players at Millard North. All right, Jacob Bigelow stops by next. It's the opening day for Nebraska basketball. They take on Lindenwood tonight. Who will be available? Jacob will have the latest. Also, Arnie Amy Just will join us as well. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a little bit of slowdown from 149th to 138th on Industrial Road. And on Dodge, there's going to be a bit of a delay from 94th to 75th. And on L Street, traffic has begun to build up from 90th to 72nd. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by IBEW Local 22.
Does great pay, fully funded medical benefits, and a solid retirement sound good to you? IBEW has immediate openings for electricians. Invest in yourself with IBEW Local 22. Call 402-810-0789 or visit IBEW22.org today.
Host is roasting every morning. Host is roasting every day.
Put your coffee department in good hands with Host Coffee Service, providing direct delivery and loaned coffee equipment with service programs. If you're ready to change to a better coffee provider, it's time for Host Coffee.
Omaha's best coffee since 1972. Host Coffee is always roasting something good for you.
Did you know that radon is the #1 cause of lung cancer for non-smokers and that our region has some of the highest levels in the country? Radon Defense Midwest can test and fix your home. Visit radonradio.com for an exclusive offer for 1620 The Zone listeners. That's radonradio.com.
Do you hear what we hear? Omaha Steaks has tons of jobs and hours. Right now, we're hiring for a variety of seasonal positions in our warehouses. Make this holiday extra jolly with a great employee discount on gourmet foods you can use all year long. To view available job openings and to apply online, go to omahasteaks.com/jobs or text steaks to 22633 to apply today. 'Tis the season to make some holiday cash at Omaha Steaks.
Each home game Friday, Hy-Vee hosts the Big Red Breakfast Buffet on 1620 The Zone. Join the unauthorized Big Red Breakfast Show live from 6 to 10 with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley, and enjoy breakfast from Hy-Vee Market Grill, featuring all your favorite breakfast food. This buffet is sure to make your day. A one-trip buffet is just $12 or all you can eat for only $15. Buffet includes scrambled eggs, party potatoes, bacon, sausage, biscuits and gravy, and assorted pastries. It's the unauthorized Big Red Breakfast at Hy-Vee Home Game Fridays on 1620 The Zone.
Sure, you could go elsewhere for your health and wellness products, or better yet, why not just come to 42 Degrees? Those other places don't even come close to the wide variety and premium disposable e-juice, CBD, Delta, Kratom, glass pipes, vaporizers, and other great products. With the friendliest, most knowledgeable, and professional staff who will find the right products just for you. If you're looking for a one-stop shopping experience, look no further. 42 Degrees. By your mom's house.
Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Let it fly. Your elevated sports bar experience. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620, The Zone.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620, The Zone.
Ready to draw the fan base in. Optimism is high. What will it be like in March? Jacob Bigelow joins us. What will it be like in March?
That's an excellent question. I'm just glad. I'm just happy to have hoops back right now. I was telling Jimmy that I've already had people ask me, "Is today your Christmas? Is today your favorite day?" And I'm like, I mean, it's still a Monday, but I mean, it's unfortunate that there's not not really many marquee matchups this week to look forward to. But I'm just happy to have basketball back in my life.
Who do you expect to? I mean, again, with the injury situation going on with Nebraska too, what is your starting five looking like tonight?
I had to guess. My starting five tonight would be Jamarcus Lawrence, Bryce Williams, C.J. Wilcher, Josiah Alec, and Rink Mast.
Okay. And on top of that, let me ask you the role Sam Hoiberg plays tonight.
He'll get some tick tonight. I think those out of the guys who that we can just say guys that didn't play in the exhibition game due to one issue or another. The guys I wouldn't expect to see tonight are K-State, Tominaga, Ramel Lloyd, and Blaze Cada. I think that's there's still. I think Sam will be. I'm not saying he'll be the first guy off the bench, but I mean I think he'll get some tick tonight. We saw what just the way he. I mean, yes, it's Stone. Yes, it's an exhibition, but I mean the way that the confidence it looked like he had, jumping in passing lanes and kind of doing everything right. Like he was kind of doing everything he was supposed to do and wasn't trying to do too much. So I think Sam will play tonight.
Should we worry about Cada playing basketball at Nebraska?
Maybe. I definitely say maybe. I mean, but leaning more so toward yes. I mean, it definitely appears to be a chronic, issue. And that's an unfortunate reality with big guys is, if there's going to be a lingering injury, it's probably going to be your feet or your legs. And once that becomes chronic, it's tough to shake. So I'd say maybe leaning more toward yes.
If you kind of watch this group come together, and you mentioned, hopefully seeing Josiah Alec and Rig Mass tonight too, and if they would be in the starting lineup coming off of the injuries, what are some of the early good signs that we should be looking for if this is going to be, a team that can be relevant, especially in March? What would some of the things that we should be looking for here in the first week in your opinion?
I think tonight and when's the next game? Thursday, right? Was it Wednesday or Thursday? I forget for sure. I think it's I forget, but I know they have 2 this week. I think just a balance, like a balance offensively. Shouldn't be. I don't think there'll be one guy taking too many shots. I think it'll be pretty balanced. I mean, we saw multiple. I think we saw 4 or 5 guys in double figures in the exhibition game. Then again, that's down. But I think that if they can, show balance on offense and still defend with a purpose, and they were still kind of playing like the chaos, just fly around and find a guy and get your hands up. But I mean, they were flying around and still defending hard even in the exhibition game. But I mean, I think I think that as long as they show balance and cohesiveness in these first 2 games with the guys they have available, I think that's as good of a sign as you can see.
Who will be the leading scorer when it's all said and done?
At the end of the season?
Yep.
That's a good question. See, I have kind of championed myself this offseason as the conductor of the Bryce Williams hype train. I don't think he's going to be the leading scorer, but I think there will be some nights where he'll lead the team for sure. I'd go with Matt right now.
And okay, I think it's a good candidate to have there too. But if you're kind of looking at what this team, like a defining characteristic of this team, what you think it will be or what it needs to be for this year to be different, are we looking at that more on what they're doing offensively, or is this more of a defensive conversation? What is the bigger defining characteristic that needs to be present with this team?
I think it comes back to more so just like offense, and I think the fact that they have options at all 3 levels of guys who can score up and down the roster. I mean, I know this is definitely, I think, Fred's deepest group. They've got guys who can step out and hit shots. They've got a guy in Williams who, probably much to Fred's chagrin, loves the mid-range pull-up shot, and get into the basket. They got guys who can cut away from the ball. They've got guys who aren't afraid to go downhill and go right at the hole. There's a balance of different body types, different offensive strengths. Then they just got to find the right, like I said earlier, the right balance. You could look at the roster and say there's a lot of mouths to feed, but I think they just got to find the right balance of guys embracing their role. And they have to lock down a rotation at some point. We can talk about depth and how deep the roster is, but there are going to be guys who play more than others. But I think just the balance offensively is the biggest key for me.
Hey, so if you read Blue Ribbon or you read the Almanac, or really anybody that has a comment about Nebraska basketball that isn't John Fanta, who has them dancing,
or Andy Katz.
Yeah, I'm not sure what sport Andy Katz covers. There's the part of everybody goes, well, my hesitancy is point guard. And we talk about that, who's going to run the point. And then I think about how Sam Griesel played last year. And it wasn't always him bringing up the ball. Is it more important to figure out who the point guard is, or when the shot clock has 5 on it, who has the ball in their hands or wants it in their hands?
I'd go with who wants it or who has it. When the clock's winding down, I think it's the point guard is the guy who initiates the offense and starts it. But you gotta it's not how you start; it's how you finish. It's who's going to be the finisher, who's going to be the alpha. It's my shot. Give this to me. The late game, late clock situation. I think I'd lean toward that being more important with this group, just because of once again they've got options.
Jacob, as you kind of again alluded to with some of the guys that you think are going to be key contributors too, we look at like some of the freshmen. And now, I by the way, I think I'm saying it right. I kept saying Diop. Is it Jope?
I
look at the pronunciation.
So.
I believe that's what it is.
Think so. I think so. Yes, I believe. I haven't looked at the pronunciation guide yet, but I think that's right.
that one it caught my attention as well. But between guys like him and then Eli Rice, as far as the freshman impact right now, how key do you think that's also going to be to what Nebraska is this year?
I don't know if it's gonna be a difference between wins and losses, but I mean, we've kind of seen Eli Rice's rise over the summer. He kind of was is looking like a really sneaky good get from IMG's post grad team. He's shown he was their leading scorer in Spain. We've seen Fred loves them some lefty shooters, and we saw his Eli Rice's ability to step out and hit a couple, and he's got good build for his size, and I think he could steal some minutes from somebody in the rotation when that's finally established. But yeah, because I think he's going to play, and then with Matar, I don't everything I've heard just comes back to him being freakishly athletic and being able to go get a rebound and maybe dunk on you if the circumstance is correct. But I don't know what his contribution would be in the season long scheme of it, but I think there's definitely a lot to maybe buy some stock into with Eli Rice.
Who wins the national championship?
That's I was just thinking about this last night. It's tough. I mean, Kansas is such a cliche answer, and we saw them drop the exhibition to Illinois, but I kind of when it gets down to winning time, I'm gonna bet on Bill Self. I think more in pertaining to the team I cover, I don't think the Big Ten drought is going to end this year for sure. I know that was a big talking point at the media day was somebody's got to break this drought at some point, and Izzo said, "Painter, go get it done. You got the team." But but I mean, right now it's corny and cliche as possible, but I just really like Kansas's roster from top to bottom, and I think by the end of the year they'll be in Phoenix for sure.
Oh, Jacob, thanks. Oh, come on.
That's not just for you, Jimmy. That's just my genuine thought. I just really like the look of their team.
Jacob Bigelow joining us. So you are not all in on Purdue doing the Virginia?
I am not.
Yeah, good call.
No, I am not. And that more so comes down to Virginia, that Virginia group. Those guys were experienced already when they lost to a 16, and then they came back with the experience of losing to a 16 and already having a lot of games under their belt before that, and just kind of all lined up and worked out. And I think Purdue, Purdue got those freshmen overachieved last year, those freshman guards, and they're both really solid. And Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, and then obviously you bring Edey back, but I think just I'm more cautious about a possible sophomore slump for those guards, and then just the other pieces they have around those guys. I think that Virginia team was deeper and had more experienced guys all around.
I know this is going to be a constant conversation again going back to Nebraska, but this being the first game of year 5 for Fred Hoiberg, and we've talked about wanting to see this team at least be in the conversation for the NIT. If we're seeing this team on the opening round of the Big Ten tournament, if they're nowhere to be found, maybe not nowhere to be found, but if they fall short of even an NIT bid, what type of evaluation is taking place with Fred Hoiberg in this basketball program? But do you think that that's enough for major concern that there is a change, or do you think that there is a scenario, even if that doesn't happen, that Fred comes back for a 6th?
When we've heard the man in the power chair talk about basketball, I think a lot of it is going to depend on how it looks. If it looks like last year with the toughness, the togetherness, the buzz phrase of a team that the fans can root for and relate to, and things just bounce the wrong way, then I think that wouldn't be a quick trigger. But I mean, if it looks like it did 2 years ago with the Verge McGowan's group, where there was not a lot of effort, a lot of head hanging, and just didn't look like a very cohesive team, then there might be some speaks. But I think that it's no matter the win-loss record, I think in the evaluation, a lot of it's gonna come down to how it looks, in my opinion.
All right, we'll get you out on this. Quick football question: any new concern pop up after Saturday?
I don't think any of it was new. I think it was all things that we were uneasy and worried about for more than a month now, and it all just some things just kind of reared their ugly head of we've seen what it can look like when it's good, but when it's bad, it looks like it did on Saturday. I don't think any of it was new to me, really. I mean, the thing that stood out to me the most was obviously the defense, underperforming what we'd seen, since the start of the season. But offensively, I think those were all concerns that we knew could come to fruition, and unfortunately, we all saw them come to fruition in one game. So,
all right, will Jim Harbaugh be coaching against Penn State this weekend?
I am going to go with yes. I think that it's kind of sounding like it's all going to get left up to the NCAA, and I don't think the NCAA does anything quickly. So I think it's gonna, I don't know if it's gonna lead to, we'll see how the rest of the season ends. But right now, I'd lean toward yes. He's going to be on the sidelines on Saturday.
All right, enjoy tonight's season opener. It doesn't feel like college basketball should be here.
You're not wrong. We had nice weather this weekend. It's not bone-chillingly cold. I'm not going to have to put on multiple layers to walk across that bridge from the festival lot to PBA, so it doesn't feel like basketball quite yet.
I saw the Nebraska hype video they sent out this morning. The players are walking across that bridge. Damn it, Jacob, you can too. Sacrifice for the team in Lincoln.
No, I'm not complaining about it.
It's 65 degrees today.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. Appreciate the time.
Tonight against Lincoln, Omaha takes on Doane. It's a double dip. The Omaha women play Illinois State.
Yes,
I think.
Yeah,
they play at 5.
We don't really do that much anymore, do you? The double dip, the 2 games.
No, I don't think it's frowned upon by Summit League teams. Even though there are a couple of places where the women outdraw the men. Believe it or not.
South Dakota.
South Dakota women draw really well. Yep. Now, South Dakota State women, I think, are a shade ahead of the men.
Really?
I mean, they both draw really well.
Wow.
People in Brookings, what else they have to do? They go to basketball games.
It's cold.
But yeah, double dip tonight. Again, do we have what happened to the Tuesday Classic game?
Champions Classic?
Is that next week?
That's next week.
Yeah, because remember you'll have the college football playoff in between the first game and the second game.
I mean, I want like an aircraft carrier. I want
carrier games.
Like a game at Henry Dorley Zoo. We need one of those to kick off.
That I can get behind.
Isn't there
in
a carrier?
The Desert Dome?
Isn't there a carrier game coming up in the next couple of years? I thought there was. But they announced one.
Well, if they make it back from over in Europe in the sea, then you can have an aircraft. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Those ones were always a little. I was always curious about the wind too. But well, let's spice this thing up. However we can spice this thing up in the first couple of weeks, other than the Champions Classic.
I just I'm not going to pay attention when you get some of these matchups the first week, unless I was working them.
Is that kind of when? I mean, would we agree though? That's like sort of the moment that they sort of introduce us to college basketball as the Champions Classic, though, because you got the 4 marquee teams, and then you do intertwine college football playoff rankings in between games 1 and 2. So then you get a little bit of that as well. You get the audience. It's almost like, these games count.
You know how you cure my blues? Nebraska Creighton, first game of the year.
Oh, okay. All right.
That would be good.
Instead of a random Sunday in December, first
Big
game of the
championship
year.
Weekend.
Nebraska Creighton. You don't think that get people juiced up?
It would.
You know what? We also may not pay as much attention to basketball because football actually has a pulse, and then there's that volleyball program.
Yep.
Then there's Maction tomorrow. Can't
It just doesn't like college basketball kicking off today seems.
I would agree that it's definitely more so this year than last year, and I think you probably nailed it as far as why, because we're not talking about a coaching carousel right now for Nebraska or a team that's just trying to play spoiler, but a team that still has a lot to play for here in the month of November. And then, yes, I think volleyball adds a little bit of that too, but I think more than anything, football interest is still very much high, a lot higher than it has been the past couple of years.
All right. Amy Just, not to be confused with her alter ego, Arnie, will join us from the Journal-Star next.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Previously on The Crossover.
Let me mow it for you. Hire me.
Hire Nick. I don't know if I'll hire you, Nick.
I'm really good at mowing.
Wow. He's offering his services.
Okay, fine. How much do you want to charge
me?
I'm bad at this. I don't want to lowball myself.
You're
cancel.
Totally
Cancel. $50, Josh. Give me 50.
For how many times? One time?
Yes.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley. The Connor Happer Show. Unsportsmanlike conduct. 6A to 6P. 1620. The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from Knoyer Garden Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
A cool start Monday morning, though, warming up nicely to start the week. We'll see partly sunny skies with a light northwest breeze, highs in the upper 60s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
Rich Eisen here from Monday Night Football on Westwood One. Coming up, the LA Chargers travel to New York to face the Jets. Justin Herbert and the Bolts were impressive in last week's win over the Bears. Now they face a Jets team who have won 3 in a row. Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner have the call on air and on the free live stream sponsored by AutoZone on Monday Night Football.
Right here on 1620, The Zone.
Here's to Prilosec OTC. Without Prilosec, I wouldn't be able to enjoy all this yummy holiday food. Speaking of, whoever made that apple pie, delicious. I just take one pill each morning and zero heartburn all day. So cheers to Prilosec OTC. Ooh, are those jalapeno poppers?
Prilosec OTC prevents excess acid that can cause heartburn, so you can enjoy the holidays. 1 pill a day, 24 hours, zero heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you meet now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call at Grainger.com or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Sports fans, Let It Fly Sports Bar is your elevated sports bar experience. Located in the Capital District in downtown Omaha, experience Let It Fly's unique brand of hospitality with 2 floors, 2 bars, 2 expansive outdoor patios, and an in-house podcast studio with live broadcast of the Let It Fly Show. Hosted by me, Michael Severe, and Josh Jones. Host your next college game day watch party, private event, weekend brunch getaway, or a date night right here at the Let It Fly Sports Bar. Try our delicious brunch menu and reserve your seat for the game.
Good boy. At Cox, we think all customers deserve a reliable connection. So whether you're a loyal customer who's been with us for years, or you're new to the family like this little guy, you'll get the same great deals on the same great internet. And no matter who you are. See how you can save at Cox.com/deals for all. Other restrictions apply, all rights reserved.
The Zone Hotline is powered by 42 Degrees, The Source, by your mom's house.
Hi, this is Kathy Knoyer. 'Tis the season at Glass House Market within Knoyer Garden Center. We'd like to be a part of your family's holiday tradition. Whether you're looking for a gift for that special someone or a wreath for your front door, we'd like to invite you to come shop our stunning holiday market full of Christmas decor, novelty items, and fresh greens. Shop Glass House Market located within Knoyer Garden Center on 66th Street between Cornhusker and Highway 370 in Papillion. Open daily 10 to 6.
Knoyer Garden Center, everybody's got a green thumb.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
welcome. Joins us every Sunday. Her alter ego went to East Lansing and covered the game as Arnie. She joins us now. I'm sorry that they messed up your media pass, but did I see you responded to someone? That's not the first time someone has called you Arnie?
Yeah, so the first time someone ever called me Arnie, I was in 4th grade, and I was at a USA swimming event and, in Des Moines, I believe, and, yeah, every time I got called up to the podium that week, I was Arnie, so that was the first time it ever happened. I was mortified, my mom thought it was hilarious, and then I never really thought about it again until my first job out of college. I was covering Montana, and they were playing at Portland State, and my credential had Arnie on it, and I thought it was the funniest thing ever and immediately called my mom to tell her because I had remembered that long forgotten memory of being called Arnie at a swim meet. And it took a life of its own from there. Like, anytime I wrote something that Montana fans didn't like, they just blamed it on Arnie. And yeah, so sometimes I get it in emails, which happens a lot, especially because our newsprint is pretty small. And for people who don't have the best eyesight and are still reading the paper, yeah, I can see how that would happen. But for a credential, when you just copy and paste,
Yeah.
it's funny though. Like, I don't get mad about it. I actually find it kind of funny as long as they're not checking IDs and they give me grief for it because that's not my fault. But yeah.
Do they just assume that you don't know how to like either print an R and an M or N, or is it just because of the IE? I mean, what is like the commonality here?
Well, if I want to put my tinfoil hat on, most people just don't assume that women do this job.
Okay.
So, Arnie.
Yeah.
Hi, Arnie.
So I get it a lot, mostly from my friends who are just giving me grief. But yeah, no, this is the second time I've had Arnie on a credential, countless times in emails. I get Annie some too.
Okay.
I was telling Matt Foster when we were in the press box, I'm like, yeah, I've covered 3 sporting events in the state of Michigan, and my name has been right on the credential only once.
That says a
Dang,
lot.
I was Annie for Saints Lions in 2020.
Have you guys created like an Arnie Just email account at the Lincoln Journal-Star and an Annie Just email? Just
No, well, because it
all
wouldn't work that way because the way we do emails, it's a just.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it would be the same. But yeah, no, it's funny to me. It's
so
funny.
Outside of not getting to 6, so Nebraska has 3 to get 1. What was the most deflating aspect of Saturday's game to you?
Well, I wrote about the past game because I thought it was embarrassing. Parts of it were embarrassing, and other parts were really great, and it was just really confusing. And I know they've had struggles all season. It's not just this. There's many reasons for it, but that's what I wrote about. But when watching the game back, I think it's just it was a combination of nothing going particularly well anywhere other than Emmett Johnson. Like, the defense just didn't look right. They were serviceable, but they're usually good, right? And then Brian Buschini, who is usually, stellar, had a really rough day. And that confounds the problems that they're having on offense. And then that sets their defense up for not great success. So I just felt that everything was building off of each other.
Well, and Amy, we've talked about today that this result was probably always in the cards given, the turnover situation, the limitations of the offense. I'm curious. So you're watching this game, you see this result. Was it to you anything like new, like revelation wise of, oh, I didn't see that part of a struggle, whether, defense, special teams, or something new with the offense? Or are you, in the same mindset of this was bound to happen at some point, especially when things maybe weren't as crisp defensively.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's bound to happen at some point just because they've been winning for a while, and sometimes you take winning for granted. You've got to still work as hard, and I'm not saying that they didn't work as hard. I just don't think it came together the way they thought they would. And I don't think anybody will admit this, but maybe they overlooked them a little bit. No one will admit it, but maybe they did. Because, I overheard so many conversations between Nebraska fans and Michigan State fans before that game. And Michigan State fans are like, "Oh, you guys are going to crush us today." And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, Nebraska's in the Big Ten West. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. And, I guess they play the games for a reason. But, yeah, coming out of that one, I don't know. Maybe they'll get right this week, but Maryland's not a cupcake either, even though they did lose to Penn State pretty bad this past week and then somehow lost to Northwestern the week before.
Hey, so I might walk you into this question where you can say both, but who can help more in the passing game? Harburg can help Marcus Satterfield, or Marcus Satterfield can help Harburg?
Yeah, like you said, I think it's a two-way street. Nuri Newili put some of that on the offensive line too. So I think they all have to help each other. And I know that's a cop-out answer, but you can't have success without working together and trying to find an answer to this problem, because we all know it's a problem, right? So they've got to open things up more. And if they tried to do that on Saturday, it did not work.
In what ways opening up, like a Harburg rolling out of the pocket, or?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, just something. Just try something. Like, I really liked the when they tried to go with some like zone read stuff like earlier in the game. I thought that worked. Until it didn't. But I mean, keep trying, right? Like, but I guess my biggest qualm with the offense is why they don't run Emmett Johnson more.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey.
yes, I have so many issues with the pass offense, but it feels like he's not allowed to touch the ball more than 14 times.
Well, I was thinking of you because, they begin the second half and he pops one for 11. He did not run the ball again until that third last drive. I think it was about 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I thought he was injured, but the series before he was out there and he was just pass blocking. So I'm with you. I mean, that's a drum that we're all beating is, why don't you utilize Emmett Johnson more? But that's probably a bigger picture that talks about the running back rotation as well.
Yeah, if it's working, why go away from the hot hand?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't get that at all.
Amy, one of the things that was obviously brought up a lot after the game was the punt return strategy. And
God.
Right.
How do you feel?
Yeah, and maybe that's just the best question. Your thoughts on that, but I also is it more of a scratch your head, what the hell are you doing type of reaction, or is it more of a, oh my gosh, this is just a constant reminder of the little amount of confidence that this coaching staff has in anybody other than Billy Kemp to actually catch a punt?
I think it's a little bit of both. I also think that they wanted to have Billy play because that's all he could do.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't really run. His MCL is still a little flared up, but he could catch. He could go out there and catch. I'm just like, why would you put him out there? Like, I know he wants to play. I know you want him to play. He's a leader of your team and all of that. But there were some that, like, he could have walked 5 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so confounding because we talked to Ed Foley this week, and he did not shy away from the fact that punt return had been subpar this season. And, if you're just going to fair catch things inside the 10, why?
Yep.
Why?
So let's go back to the defense. And we all know the defense has carried Nebraska through. They were better in the second half. They weren't up to standard in the first half. Why do you think they lacked crispness early? Like where a Gifford and Newsome got beat on plays where they haven't gotten beat like that in a month plus.
I have no clue. I really don't. I'm confused by it too. Like, maybe this was just a down game for them, and Michigan State maybe showed some things that hadn't been shown on tape that they may or may not have been ready for. But yeah, no, I'm really confused too, to be honest with you. It was out of character. That just feels like what this game was outside of the passing offense. We've known that. Like this whole game was just out of character.
Well, and now having said all that, I would totally agree with you on. I think we know what the offense is and confidence level of like anything looking dramatically better. But I feel like Tony White and this defense, even with what we saw last week, not being themselves, have built up enough equity that you would feel like this is a week that if you're Maryland, look out. Like this defense is not going to accept that type of performance 2 weeks in a row.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this feels like a get right game for them. And Vegas thinks that too. Nebraska's not favored, but last I checked, the line was like 3, 4, something like that.
I think it's 2.5 now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things have changed. So yeah, I think Vegas has confidence in this defense. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how this game's going to go because Maryland has scored a lot this year. And if it turns into a shootout, I do not believe Nebraska can keep up.
Hey, we'll finish. It's been a good run for women's athletics at Nebraska, whether it be soccer, which we're going to find out, I think, today if they make the NCAA tournament, which they should. For volleyball, of course, the women's sports at Nebraska are on a nice little run. Jordy Ball shows up, and all of a sudden, Nebraska softball is talking about putting expanded seating in Bowlin Stadium. Then Britt Prince says yes to Amy Williams and a huge pickup. Keep her away from Creighton, keep her in state, and she's a 5-star for a reason. But where do you think that Britt Prince committing to Amy makes the most immediate impact?
Oh, man. I think, that's such a great question. Well, on the floor, obviously, I think she could immediately come in and run point. Immediately. And I think that gives them just a massive bump. Not because I don't think the point guards they have right now aren't good. I think they're pretty great. But I think Britt is generational. And what she will be able to do for this program by the time she is done, I think she will be a program changer that has the potential to have her name up on the wall.
Wow. I mean, anybody that's seen her play, and she'll be able to handle all this. She's been in the spotlight since she was in 8th grade. So she'll be able to handle all the attention. I knew Nebraska was in a good spot, but I didn't see that one coming yesterday. And that's a great bit of news for that program to have before this morning when they kick off the season.
Yeah, I was sitting at our gate in Chicago, flying back from Detroit when that came down because I had push alerts on for her because I knew it was coming. Because I knew she wanted to commit before signing day this week. But yeah, I wanted her to choose Nebraska, but I didn't think that she would. She could have gone anywhere, and then whittled her list down to 11 with some really, really good programs on there. Like Iowa was on there.
Yep.
And I just think she, has built a great relationship with Amy Williams over the years. mean, her mom and Prince tweeted out a video that they had put together. And it's got pictures of little Brit with Amy, and it was adorable. And I think that goes a long way. I cannot wait for
Amy,
what that will look like.
Amy, we appreciate it and enjoy the day. There'll be a lot of busy stuff going on. Double dip of basketball and a Matt Rule. So enjoy.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
That's our Amy just from the Lincoln Journal-Star. Here's the other part. So if you're comparing Nebraska and Creighton, success on the floor, Creighton is a better program than Nebraska.
Yeah.
But for someone that's been going to your camp since you were in 4th grade, that's huge to keep her home. I mean, Britt is the real deal. Now I'll be curious to see if Mom is on Nebraska's staff next year. I brought that up. That's a possibility.
The Ed Manning.
But here's another part. So where Nebraska women's basketball is at right now, and as long as they can stay healthy, they got an NCAA team. Okay, they could be a fringe top 25 team before it's all said and done. But you add a 5-star in Britt Prince, best girls basketball player in the state since Jess Shepard from Fremont committed to Nebraska, ended her career at Notre Dame, then went on to the WNBA. You also are going to pair her with, they got a huge victory out of the state of Oklahoma in a 4-star in Mackenzie Mathern, who's in the class of 25. So it's still down the road, but man, what a boost in the arm to get Britt Prince to stay home. I mean, it's the Jordy Ball effect.
Yeah.
They already draw well. There's already a lot of excitement. They're fairly good on the floor. And now you add that piece that stays in state and you keep them away from Creighton. That's a monster pickup. Pickup for Nebraska.
And I even think too, when I saw that news yesterday, you think about Jordy Ball. We've made a lot of the comparisons to the Caitlin Clark and her impact on the women's basketball game, just like Jordy Ball could have on the softball game. And finally having one here in Nebraska where you're just sort of that real deal talent. If Britt Prince can be that type of player too, where all of a sudden it's kind of, it has a Caitlin Clark effect where you've got the homegrown girl. She's balling out for this basketball team. And maybe you're starting to build around her. That commitment now all of a sudden helps you in recruiting down the road. And you're able to build this absolute powerhouse of a team. And all of a sudden you've got Nebraska there in the top half of the Big Ten and going on to bigger, better things in the postseason. Like I think there's a lesson to be learned not too far away from the state of Nebraska of having a homegrown talent staying at home with the resources and the support that you get from this fan base when it comes to all things Nebraska athletics, where we're talking about men's or women's sports. Like that to me, I think is something to keep your eye on the type of impact and how much of even what, Caitlin Clark's path was and how that kind of plays a role.
Well, with the new Big Ten, the Big Ten West, the 4 schools that are coming in, pretty good in women's basketball. You need to recruit and retain players like Britt Prince. So huge pickup for Amy Williams. All right, we'll come back. We'll put a wrap on this Monday show. Going to be a busy, busy day. We got basketball opens up today. Matt Rule speaks today. Probably nothing's going to happen at Michigan today. Am I missing anything else? No World Series, none of that. The play-in tournament, anything?
Nice day to go outside.
We got Chargers Jets tonight.
Yes, you've got Monday Night Football.
More
Chargers
importantly,
Jets.
we have Peyton and Eli because that game needs it.
We'll enjoy that.
Are you sure? Justin Herbert just needs 30 fantasy points. That's what that game needs. I don't care.
Relatable.
Yeah, I don't care.
Relatable.
We're back to put a wrap on this one after this.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley.
Brent Rasmussen of Mortgage Specialists. You've decided to buy a house. Now what? It doesn't matter if you're a first-time home buyer or a seasoned homeowner. The home buying process is not the same as ordering something from Amazon. The biggest trick is knowing how much you really can afford before the real house hunting can begin. I mean, really, really know. There's no time for guessing games, which is why talking with a mortgage professional like Mortgage Specialists first can make a difference. Some house hunting websites have calculators that'll give an estimate of the monthly payments, but they aren't really reliable. It's a better idea to get an accurate payment estimate using your own personal information. That's where Mortgage Specialists can help. Really, really help. Find out more when you subscribe to Mortgage Matters in Minutes on our YouTube channel. Just search Mortgage Specialists LLC.
Click mtg-specialists.com. NMLS number 5918, Equal Housing Lender.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard. Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. You can choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you speaking right away. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks? Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
And now, try Babbel free at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Some days, my active psoriatic arthritis makes it hard to get in the game. Now, the ball is in my court, thanks to treating my skin and joints with Skyrizi, Risankizumab Rizin, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults.
Nothing is everything.
Skyrizi helps with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. For those who also have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible with just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is always looking to make your game day bigger and better. Cheer on your favorite team this season in front of a 22-foot LED video wall showing up to 8 games at once. TVs are everywhere else you can look with a state-of-the-art audio and video system. Enjoy a big old pizza or award-winning char-buffed wings. There's just no better way to do your game day. Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, 173rd and West Center Road. And for takeout at 162nd and Maple.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
If you ever saw these guys in concert,
once in Chicago,
when they were all together,
yes,
long time ago,
incredible concert. Incredible concert, Lincoln Park.
Rest in peace, Chester.
Connor Happer Show, which will be hosted by Jimmy today, is coming up next. So the question I posed earlier, within the hour or last hour, who's Nebraska's best offensive coach? Just a random, sampling
question.
Mm-hmm.
Donovan Raiola is getting a few votes.
Okay.
One of you, I can't remember which one of you made the point. Like, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I don't think it's complete. It sounds when you first say it, because everybody can believe, like, no, the offensive line is terrible. We had a caller earlier and say, like, how can you expect anything from Heinrich Harburg or this offense because the offensive line is so bad? It just hasn't been progressing every week better and better and better. And then you get the injuries that have gone with it. But again, this team, hey, they're still leading the Big Ten in rushing.
Yeah, if you are you're on a year-to-year contract and you're going in front of your boss to get that next year, isn't that your first thing?
Hey, look at that.
Like, hey, we lead the Big Ten in rushing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you do. So that's a big leg to stand on there. It's just, it has not been anything of a consistent strength of Nebraska. But what on the offense has been? Like, what area of the offense where you're like, yep, I feel good about that, other than turnovers?
That every fourth play, it's going to be a big play. And then maybe it's the 8th play. Then maybe it's the 12th play. And then it maybe doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then you see the result.
And then, then you're looking at the scoreboard.
All right. Good show, everybody. All of the segments are up on the radio replay page. Jimmy will take you through the midday. You got Matt Rule. Connor's down doing the PA for the Nebraska women. Who do they play?
Linden? No. Do they play Lindenwood?
No, the
men
men
play
play
Lindenwood. I don't remember who they play, and I said it earlier. They play somebody. There'll be a lot of kids there, and they'll all have a
Last
good
year
time.
they played Omaha.
I
Last
remember
year
that.
We were at Lawrence this time last year. All right, we'll be back with you tomorrow. Enjoy the opening day of college basketball, whether in Lincoln or here in Omaha. If you're headed to the Mavs game tonight against Doane, stop by, say hi. Just come right down to the floor. We'll have all that coverage over on 1180. For Jimmy, Nick, I'm Gary. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this